Chapter 1470. On Zhu Rong's side, other than Zun He and Zun Lei, there was also Zhu Jimei, a cold-faced swordsman and a blind monk. On Li Fun's side, there was Xing Feng, Qin Hao, and a swordsman wearing a ghost mask. The winged race were all demonic beasts. Wing River and Wing Wu were the direct descendants of the golden winged rock. They had the four-armed godly ape and blood demon wolf as their subordinates. The Gong race had the two brothers Gong Gong and Gong Xia. The rest of the helpers all had extremely powerful magic treasures. Everyone on the stage was a powerful cultivator. The battle was still ongoing. In the next battle, Zhu Rong sent out the cold-faced swordsman to challenge the Li race. Li Fun ordered the ghost swordsman to fight. The ghost swordsman and the cold-faced swordsman were equal in strength. The battle was quite intense, and both of them were injured. However, the ghost swordsman's stamina was not enough. He lost to the cold-faced swordsman by one move. None of the people recruited by Zhu Rong are mediocre. Li Fun was slightly angry. The ghost swordsman's strength was not bad, and he had indeed tried his best. Now that the team had lost one member, it was not good. He looked at Qin Hao and said, "Who is going to fight?" "Shui Han," Qin Hao said. Li Fun nodded slightly. With Yi Shui Han fighting, he felt more at ease. "I challenge Zhu Jimei." Yi Shui Han came to the center of the stage and looked at the scantily clad girl in Zhu Rong's team. Zhu Jimei snorted and jumped out without fear. She had wanted to challenge Yi Shui Han before to avenge Kai Kuan. Now, the opportunity had come, and it was Yi Shui Han who took the initiative to challenge her. However, this battle was no different from the battle with Kai Kuan. No matter how powerful Zhu Jimei's Crimson Flame Emperor's secret technique was, she couldn't get within 3 meters of Yi Shui Han. Just like before, Zhu Jimei only needed one palm strike. Blood spurted out of her mouth as she fell to the ground. Moreover, Yi Shui Han's palm landed on her chest. The texture is too bad. Yi Shui Han turned around and returned after his victory. His back was incomparably elegant. Zhu Jimei was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She was so angry that she fainted in Kai Kuan's arms. Zhu Rong's face was gloomy. He deeply felt that Yi Shui Han and Qin Hao were a little tricky to deal with. Not only Zhu Rong, but the winged kind and the gong kind had also realized that Qin Hao and his people were much more powerful than they had imagined. As a core member of the Li kind, Li Fun's strength was naturally not bad. He also had Xing Feng's help. Now, with Qin Hao and the other 2 experts, they were a great threat to the other 3 kinds. After all, Li Fun had the advantage in terms of the number of experts. "Big brother, the atmosphere is a little strange," Xing Feng said in a low voice. At this moment, Zhu Rong, Gong Gong, and Wing River, the core members of the 3 kinds, looked at them at the same time. There was a hint of dissatisfaction in their eyes. "We seem to be showing off a little." Li Fun felt 3 waves of killing intense around them. They had attracted the threat of the Gong kind and the Wing kind. This was not a good sign. It seemed that he had to sacrifice either Qin Hao or Xiao Jiu to let the Gong kind and the Wing kind let down their guard. The battle continued. It was the Winged kind's turn. I challenged the Li kind. Suddenly, the Winged kind, who was competing with the Gong kind, changed their target and challenged the Li kind. When these words were heard, Li Fun's heart tightened. As expected, the Winged kind was going to make a move. At this moment, in the VIP seats, the leader of the Li kind also frowned. Yi Shui Han and Qin Hao had revealed their strength one after another. Li Fun even had Xing Feng, his brother-in-law, helping him. Even in terms of numbers, the Li kind still maintained a balance with the other 3 kinds. However, Li Fun's combat strength was enough to make the other 3 kinds of people wary. The helper of the winged kind was the weakest of the remaining people. Clearly, he was deliberately sending his life away. It was not for victory, but to express his dissatisfaction with the Li kind. "We can't win this battle again," Xing Feng said nervously. If they won again, the winged kind and the gong kind would definitely join forces with Zhu Rong to pressure the Li kind. Li Fun's face was filled with hesitation. It seemed like he had not made a decision yet. Who should he sacrifice between Qin Hao and Xiao Jiao? Xing Feng was somewhat anxious. His gaze swept past Qin Hao and the other two. Finally, he looked at Qin Hao and said, "You go. Purposely lose to the winged kind so that you can't fight back." Qin Hao seemed to be the leader among the three. If he was kicked out first, Yi Shuihan and Xiao Jiao would have no intention of fighting for the leadership. Purposely lose and can't fight back. Qin Hao's eyes flashed sharply. Now that the Li kind had the advantage in terms of combat strength, Xing Feng actually wanted to kick him out. This was undoubtedly weakening the overall strength of the Li kind. What was Xing Feng thinking? "Didn't you hear clearly?" Xing Feng said with a taut face. "What?" Qin Hao asked. "If I want you to lose, you will lose." "What nonsense are you spouting?" Xing Feng reprimanded. "Then why don't you go?" Qin Hao coldly glanced at him. "If you wanted to purposely lose, then why did my big brother recruit you people?" Xing Feng said angrily. He was very agitated. "Li Fun, are you going to fight or not?" Zhu Rong from the Azure Sun Building's camp urged with a cold smile. "What are you waiting for?" Xing Feng pushed Qin Hao to the center of the stage. Qin Hao turned around and glared at Xing Feng. This person didn't care about the feelings of others and did such despicable things to benefit himself. Previously, he was jealous of Shuihan and purposely wanted him to lose. On the surface, it was for Li Fun's sake. By losing, he would show weakness and avoid the encirclement of the three races. But in reality, Xing Feng was standing up for himself and obtaining the position of the leader. Li Fun calmly watched everything. Xing Feng was his future brother-in-law. If the Li kind won this time, the position of the deputy leader would belong to Xing Feng. No matter how strong Qin Hao and the other two were, they were still outsiders. Seeing that Li Fun didn't say anything, which meant that he had tacitly approved of Xing Feng's actions, Qin Hao naturally guessed his thoughts and couldn't help but sneer. Commander and deputy leader? Qin Hao really didn't think much of it. No matter which race won in the end, Qin Hao and the other two would enter the Red Flame camp. Moreover, they would be able to walk to the Red Flame Emperor's side. As long as they released the Emperor Qi at the end of the battle and created the illusion that they had broken through to the Emperor realm, the people of Yiyang City would see with their own eyes that the three of them were immortal emperors. How could Emperor Kwa, who was supervising the battle, miss out on 3 talents? He would definitely lead Qin Hao and the other two to the Red Flame Palace. As for helping Li Fun win, it was just borrowing the power of the Li kind to prevent the Red Flame Emperor from suspecting Qin Hao and the other two's origin. But now, Li Fun's brother-in-law was jealous and was afraid that others would threaten his position. He would rather weaken the Li kind in order to kick Qin Hao out. He wanted Qin Hao to lose, but Qin Hao refused to admit defeat. Walking to the center of the platform, Qin Hao mercilessly threw the wing kind off the platform. He turned around and sat back down. "You." Looking at Qin Hao's calm expression, Xing Feng gritted his teeth in anger. It was as if he had done something insignificant. Li Fun's expression was not good either. If Qin Hao had lost, he would have given him a certain amount of reward. But now that he had won, it meant that the Li kind was determined to fight the 3 races to the end. They were not afraid of the 3 races at all. This was equivalent to Li Fun's attitude of looking down on the 3 races. Following the defeat of the Wing's kind, the leader, Wing River's expression did not change. After all, he did not expect to win this round. Now, it was up to Gong Gong and Zhu Rong to see if they should work together to eliminate Li Fun first. From the Azure Sun Building's lineup, an extremely majestic and burly figure stepped out. Lightning flashed around his body, giving off a suffocating pressure. It was Vishnu Tian. Instantly, everyone's gaze froze on the platform. Vishnu Tian was the strongest helper in Zhu Rong's team. He was infinitely close to the immortal Emperor realm. Among the 4 races, he was almost the strongest. Now that Vishnu Tian had taken the initiative to step out, one could imagine Zhu Rong's determination to win the next round. Since Li Fun doesn't put our 3 races in his eyes, I can only send out Vishnu Tian. Otherwise, how could an ordinary person be a match for the Li kind? Zhu Rong crossed his arms and sneered. Li Fan's expression changed as the pressure increased. Xing Feng clenched his fist and roared at Qin Hao. You bastard! Who's going to fight now? You. Qin Hao glanced at Xing Feng and said, Didn't you say that we should win as many matches as we can, and that you can deal with Reverend Hay and Reverend Lightning? Now, the opportunity is here. You haven't even made a move yet, right? This Reverend Lightning is just for you to test your skills. You dog. Xing Feng was enraged, and his voice was extremely cold. Although he had promised to fight Reverend Hay and Reverend Lightning, that was under the condition that they entered the second round and the three races would fight together. Although Xing Feng was also a peak immortal venerable and was quite confident in his strength, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous when facing Vishnu Tian. Li Fan, what's wrong with you? Zhu Rong's smile became wider. If you don't dare to fight, just admit defeat. There's no need for you to enter the second round. The Li kind can only get 10% of the mineral veins in Yuyang City. Shuaihan, you fight. Li Fan clenched his fists and said. Now, only Yi Shuaihan was qualified to fight Reverend Lightning. As for Xing Feng, Li Fan knew how strong his brother-in-law was. If they were to fight one-on-one, the chances of him winning against Reverend Lightning was less than 40%. I'm a little tired. Let's find someone else. Yi Shuaihan rubbed his shoulders and lay down on one side of the platform. Obviously, he wasn't going to fight. Xiao Jio, you go. Li Fan said again, looking at Xiao Jio, who was surrounded by black qi. Xiao Jio was too lazy to reply and closed his eyes. You guys. Li Fan was so angry that his face was trembling. Qin Hao, what's the meaning of this? Since they had joined the Li kind, why wouldn't they fight? Young Master Li Fan, my two brothers, including myself, have doubts about Brother Xing Feng's cultivation. We're worried that he'll drag us down in the second round. Why don't we let him fight with Reverend Lightning? If he wins, we'll apologize. If he loses, we'll get rid of this parasite in advance so that he doesn't reap without sowing. Qin Hao sneered. Who are you calling reaping without sowing? Who are you calling a parasite? Xing Feng stood up abruptly and gathered purple qi in his palms. Oh, you're sending your brother-in-law to fight? Sure. Suddenly, Zhu Rong shouted something that made Xing Feng collapse. Li Fan was caught between a rock and a hard place. Why did Xing Feng have to stand out? Now, he had to fight even if he didn't want to. Let him fight. No matter the result, the Li kind will win in the end. Qin Hao said telepathically. Li Fan's heart trembled. Would the Li kind win? As he recalled the scene of Qin Hao destroying Zhu Zheng with a single strike, and Yi Shuaihan sending the three of them flying with 3 palm strikes, Li Fan clenched his teeth and made his final decision. He opened his mouth and said, Xing Feng, you will face the lightning severed head-on. Big brother. Xing Feng's legs trembled. He was the future son-in-law of the Li kind. If he lost, then he wouldn't be able to keep his position as the deputy commander. After all, every helper would have to step down if they lost. Didn't you hear? Li Fan's eyes narrowed to the size of a needle. Pure flame energy swam around his body. Okay. Xing Feng gritted his teeth and nodded. He strode towards Vishnu Tian. Chapter 1471. Both of them were peak immortal venerables and possessed immortal souls. Even though Vishnu Tian's cultivation base was extremely strong, there was no reason for him to surrender without even putting up a fight. At the center of the platform, the two men's fighting spirit burst out. Thunder Reverend Zongtian's body was covered with raging lightning. As he raised his hand, the incomparably violent thunder and lightning swept toward Xing Feng like a sea of thunder. Xing Feng was extremely cautious when facing such a strong opponent. He immediately released his immortal soul to fight. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared and a 3-headed giant elephant soared into the sky, roaring with explosive sound waves. The sound waves clashed with the sea of lightning. Lightning Seigneur took a step forward calmly and slapped out a powerful palm strike. Incomparably gorgeous and violent lightning intertwined to form a huge palm strike. Thunder roared and lightning flashed. It was incomparably heavy. When it entered the sea of lightning, It swept away all the lightning energy and extinguished the sound waves. What a violent attack! The hearts of the people of the three races trembled. Vishnu Tien was indeed ferocious. No wonder he was the existence closest to the immortal emperor realm. Xing Feng let out a wild roar. The three-headed giant elephant absorbed his soul into his body. His appearance changed drastically. His body grew bigger and his skin thickened. Three ugly giant elephant heads grew out from his head. A thick-hooked nose hung on each of the heads. He looked extremely powerful. However, in exchange, Xing Feng's combat strength had skyrocketed. One move is enough to defeat you. Vishnu Tien's expression didn't change. His body was brimming with great confidence. Countless lightning energy roamed around his body. His body gradually turned transparent until he completely lost his human form and turned into a ball of violent lightning. The lightning turned into a giant halberd with unstoppable force. It whistled through the battlefield and pierced through the giant elephant's body. Xing Feng's immortal soul was destroyed, revealing his true form. His chest was torn open and countless lightning threads were emitted from his body. After a series of violent convulsions, he fell heavily on the ground. Apparently, he couldn't fight anymore. Xing Feng was defeated. So strong. The representatives of the Gong race and the winged race clenched their fists. Although they were both peak immortal venerables, Xing Feng was as weak as a child in front of Lightning Seigneur. Are you satisfied? Li Fen looked coldly at Qin Hao. At first, he had thought that Xing Feng would be lucky. Even if he couldn't defeat the Thunder Seigneur, he could at least make both sides suffer and exhaust part of the Thunder Seigneur's strength. However, from the looks of it, Vishnu Tien hadn't even unleashed his full strength when he crushed Xing Feng. The Li clan will win. Qin Hao only smiled coldly. Zhang Vishnu Tien was indeed extraordinary. Moreover, from this battle he could see some clues. Zhang Vishnu Tien's cultivation base wasn't at the immortal venerable realm, but at the immortal emperor realm. This was something that even revered He and Zhu Rong didn't expect. Who knew that Vishnu Tien had hidden his combat strength and was an immortal emperor? However, the outcome was still the same. Buried Heaven defeated Xing Feng in one move. Qin Hao defeated Buried Heaven in one move as well. After the battle, the severely injured Xing Feng's face was as ugly as it could be. He had a good reputation and was about to become the son-in-law of the Li clan. He was originally a proud person. After today's battle, he was full of confidence. If he performed well, he would definitely marry the daughter of the Li clan leader. However, he didn't expect that he would lose in one battle and lose so miserably. Xing Feng had a bitter smile on his face. The aura in his body was chaotic. He covered his bleeding chest and walked back step by step. It would be difficult for him to marry Li Fan's sister, let alone become the deputy commander of the Crimson Flame Emperor. After all, he had only lost one battle. And beside Li Fan, there were three outstanding cultivators. Yi Shuihan won 3 battles and was extremely dazzling. Qin Hao and another dark cultivator were also very powerful. This made him suspect that the Li clan's clan leader would choose a new son-in-law from Qin Hao and the other 2 to replace him, steal his woman, and take the position of vice commander. When Xing Feng returned to the Li clan's camp, Li Fen didn't say any words of concern. A loser was useless. If he wanted to win, Li Fen's hopes were all on Qin Hao's group. Goodbye. Xing Feng cupped his fists at Li Fen. The latter's cold attitude made him even more disappointed. The moment he left the stage, he suddenly turned around and looked at Qin Hao viciously. After the battle of the 4 clans ends, I'll wait for you at the life and death arena in Yuyang City. Scram. Qin Hao spat out coldly. He wanted to annoy Xing Feng before leaving. This Xing Feng had schemed against him and Yi Shuihan before. Now that he was defeated by Vishnu Tien, it was his fault that he hated Qin Hao. Life and death arena? Xing Feng wasn't worthy. I'll remember you. You can't hide from me no matter where you are. Xing Feng's expression was extremely cold. He wanted to eat Qin Hao alive. However, since Li Fen was present, he couldn't do anything. He could only walk down the Yuyang stage. However, He didn't leave the arena. He stayed in the spectator stand to see how Qin Hao would be defeated by Vishnu Tien. At this moment, the atmosphere between the four clans became even more serious. Zhu Rong sent Vishnu Tien to eliminate Xing Feng without any suspense. This was equivalent to breaking one of Li Fun's arms. At the same time, it made the workers and Wing's clan realize how strong the Thunder Seigneur was. In this battle, Li Fun's loss had re-established Zhu Rong's position and turned the situation around. Then, in the following battles, every step was crucial. No matter which side lost more helpers, the price would be huge. It would affect the second round. Therefore, the core members of the four clans were extremely nervous. Below the stage, Tang Jingxian and Tang Jingxue had been watching the battle. Although they had seen Qin Hao and the other two fight and had some confidence in them, they had never imagined that the ones accompanying Li Fun would be Qin Hao and the other two. At this moment, the brother and sister thought back to the time when they were sitting beside Qin Hao in the Blue Sun Tower. They couldn't help but feel that they had overestimated themselves. But compared to that, the battle on the stage was even more nerve-wracking. Those who should be eliminated had already been eliminated. Even someone as strong as Xing Feng had been swept off the stage by the Thunder Seigneur. If the battle continued, the three would be in danger. Hopefully, they would all be safe. On the stage, the core members of the Workers and Wings clan silently looked at each other. After Xing Feng's defeat and the Thunder Seigneur's fierce battle strength, Li Fun had lost his advantage. Instead, it was Zhu Rong who firmly held the upper hand. If that was the case, they could no longer target Li Fun. Otherwise, Zhu Rong would be the only one in power. The Workers give up the challenge. The Wings clan also gives up the challenge. Wing River and Gong Gong tacitly shouted at the same time. Giving up the challenge meant that the two clans could only passively accept challenges from now on. After all, the Li tribe no longer had need to target Li Fun. They would not waste their peak strength on Li Fun. Instead, they would use it to guard against Zhu Rong. Therefore, the priority of the battle was given to Zhu Rong and Li Fun to let them exhaust each other first. I'll also give up. Li Fun also had the same thought and was about to give up. At this moment, Qin Hao stood up and looked at Zhu Rong's camp with a smile. It's impolite not to reciprocate. We challenged the Zhu clan, Little Nine. Little Nine understood and walked to the center of the stage. He pointed at revered He, who had once looked down on him, and said, "Get out here." In an instant, the atmosphere in the arena froze. Then, Wing River and Gong Gong both laughed. This Li Fun actually dared to continue to challenge Zhu Rong. Are you crazy? Li Fun looked at Qin Hao in disbelief. As long as one wasn't blind, they could see that the Workers and the Wings clan wanted them to fight against Zhu Rong. Qin Hao was so stupid to take the bait. Was he crazy? I'm not crazy. I'm just a little tired, Qin Hao said. After fighting for a long time, according to his usual temper, Yi Xuan, Little Nine, and the other two could directly challenge one clan. One round to eliminate one clan member. That was exciting. But in order not to expose themselves too much and arouse the suspicion of the Red Flame Emperor, they were also worried that the disciples of the Divine Palace would take the opportunity to plot against them. So, they reluctantly cooperated with Li Fun. After acting for so long, they were tired. Chapter 1472. Li Fun naturally didn't know what Qin Hao meant when he said he was tired. For now, he could only stake everything and allow Qin Hao and the other two to do as they pleased, even though he was extremely unhappy. Revered Ink Eagle's expression was cold. His eyes flashed with a demonic red light. Wrapped in a layer of black energy, he walked towards the center of the stage. Back at Blue Sun Tower, Little Nine had bowed to him for a few low-quality spirit stones. He didn't have the courage of a dark cultivator at all. At that time, he had mocked Little Nine, saying he wasn't worthy of cultivating the path of darkness. He had warned him to never appear in Yuyang City again. Otherwise, Revered Ink Eagle wouldn't have shown any mercy. Today, in the competition between the four clans, he had wanted to personally deal with Little Nine. But Zhu Rong had advised him not to waste his energy on a piece of trash, so he had a helper from the Zhu clan deal with Little Nine for him. but that helper had been instantly killed by Little Nine the moment he stepped onto the stage. This had caused everyone's eyes to shatter. This had allowed revered Ink Eagle to once again recognize Little Nine's ability. Although he was stronger than they had imagined, so what? They both cultivated the path of darkness. In the entire Yuyang city, no one could compare to revered Ink Eagle. I've said before, don't appear in front of me. I find it disgusting. It seems that you have completely ignored my good intentions. Revered Ink Eagle coldly said. Around his body, a thick black energy spread out, covering half of the stage. It gave off an extremely terrifying feeling. Even in the faraway VIP seats, the four clan patriarchs trembled. They guessed that revered Ink Eagle's cultivation wasn't any weaker than Vishnu Tian's. Then, revered Ink Eagle turned into a sharp black smoke and rushed forward. Without waiting for Little Nine's reply, his 5 fingers reached for Little Nine's throat. Not only was his movement extremely fast, his technique was also ruthless. A pale white skeleton claw shot out from his 5 fingers. Before he arrived, his attack had already arrived. It was like a skeleton claw was about to kill Little Nine. Little Nine stood there with a smile. He raised his arm and turned it into a claw. Just like revered Ink Eagle, a pitch-black claw shadow shot out towards the skeleton claw. In that instant, 2 claw shadows, one black and one white, collided. You overestimate yourself, Zhu Rong said with a smile. He dared to clash with revered Ink. Thinking about the scene of Xing Feng and the Lightning Senior fighting, it was clear what kind of tragedy would happen next. Even though they were both peak immortal venerables, Xing Feng still couldn't withstand a single blow from Lightning Senior. How much stronger could this dark cultivator be compared to Xing Feng? It wasn't just Zhu Rong who thought this. The worker race and the winged race also thought Little Nine was going to be miserable. It was a battle of origin energy between 2 dark cultivators. Revered Hei's dark arts had reached the pinnacle of the immortal venerable realm. His opponent was unknown, so how could he win against revered Hei's Tao of Darkness? Boom! A deafening sound rang out as the black and white claws collided. In an instant, a violent dark energy spread out and entered Little Nine's body, attempting to destroy his organs and corrode his flesh. Little Nine smiled coldly, and an even more tyrannical power of darkness began to circulate, and the strange power that had rushed into his body was immediately dissolved into nothingness. On the other side, Zun He was having a hard time. He felt an overbearing and ferocious power rushing towards him and entering his chest. His raincoat exploded on the spot, and the clothes in front of his chest were torn apart. His whole body slid back nearly 10 meters, and then he spat out a mouthful of black blood. How is this possible? On the platform, the people of the 3 races, including Zhu Rong, were all shocked. Even someone as strong as Zun He was at a disadvantage when facing the origin energy. Not only did Zun He fail to kill the dark cultivator of the Li race, but he was also sent flying by the opponent's attack. His clothes were torn apart, and he looked extremely miserable. At this moment, Zun He's expression changed drastically, and he looked at Little Nine in shock. The person that he had once looked down upon actually possessed such a terrifying dark energy. Soul into the body. Zun He felt a sense of danger. His hand seals changed, and an eagle's cry rang out. Everyone saw a 6-winged demonic eagle diving down from the void and entering Zun He's body. Crack! In the sound of bones cracking, 6 black demonic wings grew out of Zun He's back, and his face turned into an eagle's face. With a kick of his feet, he soared into the sky. At this moment, the entire sky above Yuyang Dojo was covered by a huge black fog, covering the sky and the sun. In the process of being eroded by the darkness, a whistling sound came from the sky, accompanied by a terrifying eagle's cry. Everyone felt that there was an eagle diving down from the heavens, rushing towards the platform. However, the thick black fog prevented them from seeing the situation inside. Even so, the killing intent caused the people of Yuyang City to tremble. Zun He and Mo Ying are indeed on the same level. If I hadn't reached the Emperor realm earlier, I wouldn't have been able to take him down when I was an immortal sovereign. Lightning flashed around Vishnu Tian's body, and a pair of lightning-like eyes pierced through the black fog. He also saw the real situation. Zunhei, who had turned into a six-winged demonic eagle, turned his legs into sharp eagle claws and stomped down on Little Nine's head. His aura was insufferably arrogant. This attack was full of power, and the Tao of Darkness suppressed the platform, so Little Nine couldn't dodge. He could only take it head-on. To put it bluntly, Zunhei's attack was enough to threaten Vishnu Tian's life before he reached the Emperor realm. One could imagine that now that the enemy was Little Nine, the result was basically the same. What's going on? Just when Vishnu Tian thought that Little Nine was dead for sure, the lightning in his eyes suddenly flickered restlessly. He saw Little Nine suddenly shoot a finger into the sky. An array of black light entered Zunhei's mind. Zunhei seemed to have suffered a great injury, and he screamed in panic and confusion. His diving posture actually caused him to fall midway, landing under Little Nine's feet. This process was like a fragile little bird that couldn't withstand the ravages of the wind. Bang! Zunhei fell heavily on the platform and directly degenerated into his human form. He didn't have the slightest bit of fierceness. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair was messy, and he hugged his head tightly. He didn't even have the courage to look at Little Nine. He was no longer a terrifying figure on the same level as Zunlei, but a pitiful guy who often had nightmares and was haunted by evil spirits in his dreams. He trembled in fear. "Don't let me see you again. I'm disgusted." Little Nine bent down and said coldly beside Zunhei's ear, "Yes, yes, yes." Zunhei panicked. He hugged his head with both hands, and with a pale face, he jumped off the platform and left. No matter how Zhu Rong called out to him, he was so scared that he didn't dare to look back. Zunhei, what happened to you?" Zhu Rong impatiently chased after him. His heart felt like it had been ruthlessly slashed by a knife, and it was wildly bleeding. Zunhei ran too fast, and he couldn't catch up at all. At this moment, on the stage, Xiao Jiu crossed her arms as she watched. She curled her lips in disdain as she looked at the fleeing figures of Mo Ying and He Zun. She could only return the words that the other party had once said to her. "You are worthy of cultivating the Tao of Darkness." Chapter 1473. Everyone in Yuyang Training Hall was shocked by this. In this battle, Little Nine's performance was shocking. Ink Eagle He Zun and Burial Vishnu Tian were Zhu Rong's strongest helpers, but they were defeated by Little Nine. One could imagine how complicated the feelings of Zhu Rong and everyone present were. Ink Eagle He Zun had been defeated. How confident was Vishnu Tian, who was equally famous, to be able to stop Little Nine? As for Little Nine, he was merely one of Qin Hao's trio. Nervous emotions oppressed his heart. The suffocating feeling made it hard for Zhu Rong to breathe. He looked at Qin Hao's team with a complicated expression. These were the three cultivators that he had personally thrown out of Azure Sun Building. At that time, he was disdainful, thinking that with He Zun and Lightning Zun there, who were the others? But the truth was, He Zun had fled in panic, but in front of Little Nine, what was he? "Next, it's your turn." Little Nine had no intention of going back. Striking while the iron was hot, he pointed at the cold-faced swordsman. The cold-faced swordsman and Vishnu Tian were Zhu Rong's only helpers. If they were eliminated, Zhu Rong would be the only one left in the second round. The situation was extremely grim. The cold-faced swordsman was so nervous that cold sweat dripped down his face. He Zun had been defeated. How could he be a match for him? He said without hesitation, "I forfeit." Forfeiting meant admitting defeat. The cold-faced swordsman lost the qualification to enter the second round. He did not regret making this choice. No matter how generous the reward was, it could not compare to the value of his life. Also, young Master Zhu Rong, I want to battle for you. I hope you can fulfill your promise and give me 50 Upper Earth grade spiritual stones. Forgive me for being unable to help you in the following battles. Also, I wish you good luck. The cold-faced swordsman said again. You Zhu Rong was so angry that his face turned green. He took out the spirit stones and threw them at the feet of the cold-faced swordsman and said sternly, "Scram. TSK." The cold-faced swordsman cast a glance at Zhu Rong, picked up the spirit stones, and left. Ha! A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. Seeing this scene today, does young master Zhu Rong regret it? Qin Hao walked to the center of the stage and waved his hand. Little Nine nodded and retreated, leaving the stage to Qin Hao. I admit that I underestimated you, but it won't be that easy for Li Fun to win, Zhu Rong said stubbornly. At least he still had the Thunder Monarch. At least the workers and the winged race had retained their peak powers and had enough people. It was hard to tell who would win in the end. I admire your confidence. Since that's the case, let the battle continue. Your Excellency Lightning Senior, please advise me. Qin Hao challenged Vishnu Tian to a duel, cutting off Zhu Rong's last hope. Wait. Suddenly, a shout came from the VIP seats. The leader of the Zhu race stood up and shouted at Qin Hao, "What benefits did the Li race promise you? We, the Zhu race, are willing to give you 10 times more. Please, 3 heroes fight on behalf of our race." Through all kinds of observation, Qin Hao is obviously the leader of Yi Shuihan and Little Nine. No matter what these 3 wanted, it was nothing more than benefits. There were rewards, and they could enter the Red Flame camp. Whatever the Li race could give, the Zhu race could promise. The leader of the Zhu race's words shocked everyone, and also caught the Li race off guard. Benefits? Qin Hao thought for a while and answered, "We didn't ask for anything substantial from Li Fun." This was true, and Li Fun also didn't promise Qin Hao anything. If that's the case, why don't you fight for our race? 10 heaven-grade spiritual stones, 3,000 earth-grade spiritual stones, beauties, Dharma treasures, whatever you want, the old man can satisfy you. After this battle, he can even give you the position of deputy commander of the Red Flame camp, the leader of the Zhu race said. The clan leader of the Zhu clan said kindly. The offer was indeed very tempting. Even Senior Buried Thunder's eyes widened. That's right. We, the workers, also hope to have your help. No matter what you want, please tell us. As for Dharma treasures, who in the entire Red Flame Emperor's field dares to say that they can beat us in Dharma treasures? The leader of the workers invited them warmly, and his tone was extremely confident. After all, the chief armorer of the Red Flame Emperor was the forefather of the workers. Listen to me, heroes. Humans are all cunning. After they've used others, they'll burn the bridge after crossing the river. The Zhu race and the Li race have many branches. They can't give you the position of deputy commander. The Wings race is different. Demonic beasts respect strength and power. If you 3 agree to join the Wings race, not to mention spiritual stones and deputy commander, you can choose any of the old man's daughters. In the future, even your descendants can inherit the position of the leader of the Wings race. The leader of the Winged race roared with lofty sentiments, similarly extending an invitation to Qin Hao. At the same time, a few beautiful girls smiled at Qin Hao, Yi Shuihan, and Xiao Jiao. They were like flowers blooming. Although they were golden-winged rocks, their appearance was no different from humans. The Zhu race, the Workers race, and the Wings race all threw out olive branches at the same time, trying to recruit the Li race. In an instant, the audience sighed. Strength was indeed a good thing. As long as you were strong enough, even the leaders of the 4 races under the Red Flame Emperor would be willing to lower themselves. However, the temptation of the 3 races made the leader of the Li race furious. Wolsh *T. The 3 heroes are members of the Li race. I've already promised to marry my daughter to Warrior Qin Hao on the stage. The wedding will be held tomorrow, and Warrior Qin Hao will become the deputy commander of the Red Flame Battalion. As for spiritual stones, it's just 10 sky crystals. Old man Zhu, how dare you say that? I've prepared 100 sky crystals for my daughter's dowry. Boom! Below the stage, Xingfeng felt as if his head was hit by a hammer. Indeed, cough cough, leaders, please listen to me. You can't tempt me like this. Although the conditions of the 3 races are good, I've promised to fight for the Li race. I'll keep my promise and fight to the end. So I'm sorry, Leader Zhu. Qin Hao said. Why? If the heroes are not satisfied, I'm willing to offer twice as much. The leader of the Zhu race was unwilling. If he had Qin Hao and the other two, he wouldn't have to worry about not winning this battle. Senior Zhu, please don't blame Big Brother Qin. Actually, Big Brother Qin wanted to fight for the Zhu race, but he was chased out of the verdant sun tower by your people. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice rang out from the spectator stands. This voice spread out and entered everyone's ears. The four clan heads looked over at the same time and discovered that it was a 15 or 16-year-old girl. Her face was pure and innocent, but there was a trace of indignation in her words. Of course, this person was Tang Jingxue. Oh, the leader of the Zhu race's heart skipped a beat. He asked, Little girl, what do you mean? Did Qin Hao and the other two go to the verdant sun tower? If they did, who dared to chase them away? Senior Zhu, my brother and I were originally working for young Master Zhu Rong. Later, we met Big Brother Qin, Big Brother Yi, and Ninth Brother, so we recommended them to young Master. Unexpectedly, Tang Jingxue told the story in detail. That day, she and her brother were humiliated, and they even implicated Qin Hao. Since the leader of the Zhu race asked, she naturally didn't mind telling him everything. When the leader of the Zhu race heard this, his face turned extremely gloomy. The power of the soul fire ran wild on his face, and his face became more and more distorted. He really didn't expect that the three invincible people who dominated the Yu Yang platform and defeated revered He would be chased away from the verdant sun tower. It was fine if they were chased away, but they even threw the spirit stones on the ground and humiliated the three godlike existences. The one who did this was his son, Zhu Rong. After Tang Jingxue finished speaking, the entire training hall fell silent. The expressions of the other three clan leaders were extremely interesting. After more than 10 rounds of battle today, the strength of Qin Hao's group was obvious to everyone present. All of them were outstanding. These talents took the initiative to send themselves to the verdant sun tower, but in the end, they were chased away. Ha! Old Zhu, your son did well. After a long while, the leader of the Li race couldn't hold it in anymore. He hugged his stomach and laughed wildly. At first, he was very puzzled. Where did Li Fen find these 3 talents? They were actually picked up from the Zhu race. Delightful, simply delightful. If not for the stupid Zhu Rong chasing away Qin Hao, the Li race wouldn't have been able to reach this stage with just Xingfeng. It was the Zhu race who gave the Li race a big gift and personally pushed them to the position of victory. The leader of the Li race shouted delightfully a few times, no doubt rubbing salt on the wounds of the leader of the Zhu race. At this moment, his face was ashen. A pair of fiery eyes shot toward Zhu Rong as he said sternly, You've done a good job. Father, I didn't know they were so strong. If I knew, I wouldn't have. Enough. I don't have time to listen to your excuses. Zhu Rong. Oh, Zhu Rong, I gave you food and flowers. In order to let you win this battle, this old man put in a lot of effort. In the end, you're the one who dug your own grave. What can I say about you? The leader of the Zhu race closed his eyes and sighed. I accept my fate. Since Qin Hao and the other 2 were chased out of the verdant sun tower by Zhu Rong, it was naturally impossible for them to join Zhu Rong's team. Father, your son has disappointed you. At this moment, Zhu Rong also shed tears of regret. Originally, he was bound to win. If his attitude had been slightly better and he had given Qin Hao an equal opportunity to display his talent, the current disadvantageous situation would not have happened. With Qin Hao and the other 2, plus the He Zun and the Thunderlord, a merely fun was nothing. Even if they were enemies with all 3 races, the Zhu race would still dominate the Valley Balcony. Who could shake them? Unfortunately, there were no ifs. Continue, Emperor Kwa said sternly. The defeat of the Zhu race was already a foregone conclusion. Although it was a pity, it would not affect the selection of talents by the Qi Yin Emperor. No matter which race Qin Hao and the other 2 stood out, they would eventually become the Qi Yin Emperor subordinates. Yes, you should continue, because the Zhu race still has me. Let me give you a piece of advice. Until the end, Don't lower your head and accept your fate. Perhaps your judgment has never been wrong. At this moment, a deep voice rang out, transmitting into Zhu Rong's heart. It was like an invisible force that strengthened his confidence. The Thunder Lord. Zhu Rong raised his head and looked at the only remaining helper of the Zhu clan. It was Vishnu Tian. The Thunder Lord's strength was beyond doubt. But no matter how strong he was, could he be stronger than the dark cultivator of the Li clan who had defeated the Heizun? Moreover, after Xiaojiu, there was still Qin Hao and Yishui Han. Don't be discouraged. I will let you know that there are some people who can defeat thousands of troops alone. The Thunder Lord walked to the center of the platform and stood opposite Qin Hao. He pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, "And you will be the stepping stone for me to create a miracle." After all, he was the Celestial Emperor. What did Li Fan have to fear? What did the Gong race have to fear? What did the Wing race have to fear? His strength alone was enough to defeat the three clans combined. You want to create a miracle? Qin Hao looked at the Thunder Lord and smiled. Tremble before me. Boom. Crack. Extremely violent purple lightning shot into the sky. The Thunder Lord's aura looked down on the world. A layer of golden light flickered on his body. At that moment, the terrifying aura of the Celestial Emperor rippled throughout the entire Yuyang training ground, shocking Emperor Qua. Chapter 1474. There was a kind of person in the world who usually kept a low profile, but when danger came, they would step forward and do what others could not do. They would turn the situation around with their own strength and create miracles for the world. This kind of person was hailed as a hero. Now that the Zhu clan was in danger, Vishnu Tian stepped forward and told Zhu Rong that he could defeat thousands of troops alone and would bring victory to the Zhu clan. Without a doubt, he was the hero of the Zhu clan. Thunder Seigneur. Looking at the burly figure with the aura of a celestial emperor, Zhu Rong was so excited that tears streamed down his face. Qin Hao and the other two pressured him so much that he couldn't raise his head. Who would have thought that Vishnu Tian, who was beside Zhu Rong, would be a cultivator who had stepped into the Celestial Emperor realm? There were only 4 Celestial Emperors in the entire Crimson Flame world. The Crimson Flame Overlord, the forefather of the Craftsman, the forefather of the Winged Clan, and Emperor Qua, who was supervising the battle today. Now, the 5th Celestial Emperor had appeared in the Zhu clan's camp. One could imagine how shocked the people were. Even Emperor Qua was moved. Vishnu Tian has entered the Celestial Emperor realm. It is a great fortune for the Crimson Flame world, Emperor Qua said. After this battle, the Thunder Seigneur would definitely enter the Crimson Flame Palace and become the Overlord subordinate. Ha ha! Old Manly, did you see clearly? The Thunder Seigneur is a Celestial Emperor. It is a Celestial Emperor. Your Li clan is finished. The Zhu clan's clan leader spat out saliva and stretched out his neck to roar, as if he wanted to vent all his resentment. The forefathers of the Craftsmen and Winged clans looked at each other and sighed helplessly. They had been planning for this competition for a long time and thought that they had made sufficient preparations. However, they couldn't resist the Zhu clan's luck. Brother Qin, others cared about the outcome of the competition. Tang Jingxue and Tang Jingxian cared about Qin Hao's life and death. No matter how strong Qin Hao was, he was no match for a Celestial Emperor. This was the suppression of realms. Are you afraid? Vishnu Tian looked down at Qin Hao with a cold expression, as though he was looking at an ant. On the other side of the stage, Li Fan clutched his chest, unable to say a single word. The entire Li tribe's VIP seats were ashen. However, no one noticed that under Yishui Han and Little Nine's calm expressions, they seemed to be stifling their laughter. Scared? No. Qin Hao remained unperturbed. Lightning Seigneur had just broken through to the first level of the Immortal Emperor realm. If he released the aura of a 5th-level Immortal Emperor, how would the world react? Would Emperor Qua be so shocked that he would jump off the platform and call Qin Hao's brother? In truth, Qin Hao really wanted to show everyone his full strength and asked the Lightning Seigneur, "Are you afraid?" Pretending to be calm won't change the outcome. The three of you are so arrogant that you made Zhu Rong lose face. In this battle, I will destroy your cultivation to vent his anger. Vishnu Tien said. His Emperor Realm spiritual power merged with the lightning, and the purple lightning around him suddenly turned into golden lightning. Thank you, Lightning Seigneur. In this life, I, Zhu Rong, will remember your kindness. Zhu Rong let out a long howl, and his dispirited look disappeared. He once again put on his cold expression, and he was even more confident than before. Destroy my cultivation? You can try. Qin Hao flicked his sword finger and pointed it at Vishnu Tien. The space around him was filled with sparks. The color of the sparks became deeper and deeper, like beads of blood rising into the sky. After becoming Celestial Emperor, one could borrow the momentum of heaven and earth. Even the lowest Celestial Emperor could have a preliminary understanding of it. It was just that the strength of the borrowing was different. Vishnu Tien's soul power was extremely strong. Qin Hao naturally wouldn't be conceited enough to fight him in his normal state. He had to use at least a bit of his soul power. Thunder Emperor, do it. Zhu Rong shouted coldly. At this time, he also changed the way he addressed Vishnu Tien to Thunder Emperor. In an instant, Vishnu Tien charged at Qin Hao. Lightning spells blasted out from his fists. They were like lightning pythons. The momentum was shocking. He wanted to blast Qin Hao into a corpse. Qin Hao used the water wind step. His movements were ethereal. He moved forward instead of retreating. He passed through the layers of lightning pythons and threw a punch at Vishnu Tien. Suddenly, a vast flame burned forward. You're overestimating yourself. Thunder Reverend disdained. He threw out a punch at the same time. The two fists collided. The sea of lightning spread out. The flames danced wildly. The terrifying power of lightning and fire exploded, shaking the Dao platform. The people of the three clans on the platform dodged at the same time and took the initiative to retreat. Too strong. The power of an Celestial Emperor expert wasn't something they could withstand. However, Qin Hao seemed to be equally strong. He was actually able to withstand Sky burying Thunder's sovereign in the form of an immortal venerable. The two of them were entangled in the battle. Their attacks landed on each other continuously. Qin Hao deliberately suppressed his strength and took the initiative to withstand Vishnu Tien's attacks. Since it was a trial, he naturally had to cherish any opportunity to hone himself. Powerful lightning energy surged into his body, numbing his nerves and limbs. Under the stimulation of lightning, Qin Hao's blood boiled more intensely than before. However, his physical body was extremely strong. Even if he suppressed his cultivation level, it couldn't change the strength of his body. Qin Hao had the body of a half-god. Even though Vishnu Tien's attacks were fierce, they couldn't break through his defense. The lightning energy that surged into his body was like tickling him. Bang! The two of them fought each other with their fists, and both of them took hundreds of punches from the other. Qin Hao was unharmed, but Thunder Barrier of Heaven's aura was fluctuating violently. Countless black fist marks were left all over his body, and each of them was filled with the smell of roasted meat. Then, the two of them clasped each other's arms at the same time, forming a fighting stance. Are you a monster? Vishnu Tien said in a hoarse voice. He no longer had the confidence he had before. The pain all over his body told him that even if Qin Hao wasn't an immortal emperor, he still had the ability to defeat him. Qin Hao sneered calmly. He stomped on the ground and leaped into the air. He grabbed Lightning Seigneur's arms like an eagle grabbing its prey and threw him towards the center of the platform. Just as Lightning Seigneur was falling, Qin Hao's fingertip shot out a sharp sword chi that pierced through the void and pierced towards Lightning Seigneur. Boom! Crack! A loud sound was heard. Before Lightning Seigneur could finish his words, he quickly formed a lightning net and barely blocked the incoming sword chi. Just as the lightning net was about to break, he was shocked to see Qin Hao in the air with his palms raised. A wildly expanding fireball grew bigger and bigger, like a sun in the sky, exuding a destructive power. Red Lotus Whirling Sky Slash. Qin Hao sneered. His right palm chopped down, and the fireball landed in the middle of the platform. The earth chi it released caused the ground to crack and the platform to sink. Rage of the Thunder Dragon. Vishnu Tien's veins bulged all over his body. His pants were torn by his muscles. He roared as if he had turned into a thunder god. Endless thunder swam around the platform. His palms pushed out, a huge dragon shadow formed by thunder and lightning. The dragon shadow roared and crashed into the fireball. Boom! The void trembled as the thunder dragon pierced through the fireball and exploded. The thunder dragon disappeared, but then the shadow of a fire dragon flew out from the scattered flames in the sky. It roared and fell on the platform, landing heavily on Thunder Lord Zongtian's chest. Ugh! Vishnu Tien spat out a mouthful of blood. He stumbled back until he reached the edge of the platform. He almost fell. Lightning Seigneur. Zhu Rong was shocked. Lightning Seigneur had stepped into the Celestial Emperor plane, but he was gradually losing to Qin Hao. How strong was this person? At this time, everyone present was shocked, including the four clan leaders and Emperor Kwa. They wondered if Qin Hao is also a Celestial Emperor. If not, how could his combat strength be so amazing? It's not over yet. Vishnu Tien wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were furious. This was the first battle he had fought with all his strength after stepping into the Celestial Emperor plane. He was ready to sacrifice Qin Hao to the heavens. He couldn't lose to his opponent. A wild roar resounded through heaven and earth. Vishnu Tien opened his arms. His will merged into the space of Yu Yang training ground. It was as if the power of heaven and earth was under his control. Thunder rumbled above the void. Countless electric nets flashed. Thunder fell and gathered into Vishnu Tien's body. His aura began to rise for the second time. So strong. He has just stepped into the Celestial Emperor plane, but his power is comparable to a third-tier Celestial Emperor. Emperor Kwa felt the raging power in the space. It made him feel threatened. He stared at Vishnu Tien. He was indeed a remarkable figure. If they were at the same level, he might not be a match for the Thunderlord. Thinking of this, Emperor Kwa looked at Qin Hao in the void. This man had the appearance of a celestial saint. Although he was also very strong, the strength shown by Yi Shuihan before was far inferior to this flame cultivator. Emperor Kwa couldn't figure out how a celestial lord could be a match for a lower-level celestial emperor. However, there was still a gap between the levels. The real terror of the Emperor plane was that he could control the momentum of heaven and earth. Next, it was time for Qin Hao to leave. Seeing that he is also a talent, I will act to protect his cultivation. Emperor Kwa cherished talent. It would be a pity if Qin Hao was destroyed by the Thunderlord. It was more valuable to serve the Emperor. At this moment, he silently ran his spiritual power, ready to block the Thunderlord's killing move for Qin Hao. However, the reality was not what he thought. Just as the Thunder Seigneur was about to borrow the power of heaven and earth to destroy Qin Hao, a mighty sword might broke through the lightning net shackles in the sky. It was like a sword from beyond the heavens, descending towards the Tao platform. At this moment, Qin Hao's silhouette could no longer be seen. His entire person transformed into a blood-colored sword Qi, enveloped in demonic might, and rushed towards the Thunder Seigneur with unparalleled speed. What a joke! Stop! His will expanded, and the power of the forbidden space was released. Vishnu Tien clenched his hand in the void, and the boundless power of thunder imprisoned the blood-colored demonic sword. At this moment, this space was dominated by Vishnu Tien, and Qin Hao could not escape from his control. However, a sharp whistling sound pierced through Senior Thunderbearer's confidence. He was horrified to see that the blood-red, demonic sword had cut through the shackles of the void. The suppressive force between heaven and earth could not stop this sword at all. Then there was a pft. The blood-colored light penetrated Vishnu Tien's throat, and blood spurted out, shocking everyone present. How could this be? These words came to Vishnu Tien's mind. His burly body trembled violently, and the will that shrouded heaven and earth disappeared. The endless sea of thunder dispersed, and the sky returned to normal. Vishnu Tien fell straight down, smashing heavily into the center of the platform. The sound of him falling to the ground seemed to have crushed Zhu Rong's heart. "Stay your hand," Emperor Kwa hurriedly shouted, but he was still a step too late. "Are you afraid?" Looking at Vishnu Tian, who fell to the ground, Qin Hao asked calmly. At that moment, Vishnu Tian was not completely dead. However, the sword that went through his throat was wrapped in terrifying demonic firepower. Not only did it burn away his life force, but it also burned away his spiritual soul. At the moment of his death, his eyes were filled with terror, as well as intense confusion. That was how he responded to Qin Hao's question. Was he afraid? However, he did not have a chance to speak. As the wound continued to burn, only a human-shaped black residue was left on the platform. From then on, the name of Vishnu Tian would no longer exist in the Crimson Flame world. It was understandable that he wanted to make a name for himself. But in order to please Zhu Rong, he tried to cripple Qin Hao. He should have been prepared to pay the price. "Are you afraid?" Qin Hao was not only asking Vishnu Tian this question. He was also asking everyone present. The workers, the wings, Zhu Rong, the 4 clan leaders, and Emperor Kwa. "Are you afraid?" As a celestial lord, he killed a cultivator who had just become a celestial emperor. Vishnu Tian wanted to make a name for himself, but unexpectedly, he became Qin Hao's foil, a stepping stone for his rise. He only asked one question. "Are you afraid?" In the audience, Xing Feng trembled. As Vishnu Tian turned into nothingness, he gradually disappeared into the crowd without a sound. Chapter 1475. Yiyang Training Ground was so quiet that even the falling leaves could be heard. Vishnu Tian's defeat had caused a great shock. The 5th immortal emperor of the Crimson Flame world had died on the platform as soon as he appeared. It was really hard to accept. This scene had the greatest impact on Zhu Rong. When the battle started, he led 9 helpers onto the platform with great confidence and was ready to win in one fell swoop. However, the 9 helpers were eliminated one after another. Even Reverend He was not spared. The reason for all this was Qin Hao and the other 2. They had stopped the Zhu clan and shattered Zhu Rong's dream. Ironically, Qin Hao and the other 2 were blasted out of the Blue Sun Tower by Zhu Rong. They were supposed to fight for the Zhu clan. Did he regret it? Of course, Zhu Rong regretted it. However, what was the use of regret now? He had no hope of winning. At this moment, Vishnu Tian stepped forward bravely and unleashed his immortal emperor cultivation base, shocking everyone. He told Zhu Rong that he would create a miracle for the Zhu clan. Zhu Rong's judgment had never been wrong. One could imagine how emotional Zhu Rong was when he saw the light of hope again from the Thunder Seigneur after his dream was shattered. He was so moved that tears streamed down his face. However, why was the result so cruel? Vishnu Tian, who had stepped into the immortal emperor realm, was no match for a mere immortal emperor like Qin Hao. He died on the platform, and his Tao vanished. ZT0G miracle? Where did miracles come from? Zhu Rong did not expect a miracle. Instead, Vishnu Tian created a pile of black dregs. Why? Why did the heavens tease me like this? Why did they give me hope only to make me taste deeper despair? Zhu Rong was howling happily just a moment ago, but in the next second, he was dispirited and lost his will. The drop in his mood almost made him collapse. The Zhu clan leader fell back into his chair as if he had lost his soul. His eyes were empty. "Cultivator, aren't you being too vicious?" Emperor Kwa glanced at Qin Hao. Celestial emperors were extremely precious. The Crimson Flame realm had finally seen the 5th cultivator step into the Celestial Emperor plane, and Qin Hao had killed Vishnu Tian while he was still in the cradle. "I'm vicious." Qin Hao laughed coldly and said, "Put yourself in my shoes, Emperor Kwa. If you were the Celestial Lord and were asked to fight Vishnu Tian, would you have held back and shown him mercy?" Vicious? The world of cultivation had always been cruel. If Qin Hao wasn't strong enough, what would Vishnu Tian do to him? Crippling one's cultivation and turning one into a cripple, living in the shadows for the rest of one's life, enduring the ridicule and ridicule of the world. That was even more painful than death. Emperor Kwa was high and mighty, looking down on all living beings. It was easy for him to say that. After all, no one in the Crimson Flame realm could threaten him other than the Crimson Flame Emperor. Of course, it was understandable that Emperor Kwa couldn't bear to see Vishnu Tien die. Sigh. Emperor Kwa sighed deeply. As the supervising celestial lord, he had to uphold justice. Asking Qin how to show mercy to Lord Thunder was indeed a bit of a stretch. After all, it was a battle between a celestial lord and a celestial lord. Let's continue. After a sigh, Emperor Kwa sat back down. Qin Hao won this battle, and it was a magnificent victory. He killed a celestial lord, which was far more terrifying than Little Nine scaring Lord He away. However, after this battle, Emperor Kwa lost a great deal of interest in the competition. In his opinion, the appearance of a celestial lord was far more significant than the competition between the four clans. The workers give up the competition for the load. The Wing clan also gives up the competition for the load. Gong Gong and Wing River, the two leaders of the workers' camp and the Wing clan's camp, spoke at the same time. Even someone as strong as Vishnu Tien was defeated by Qin Hao. Now, no one could stop the Li clan in a one-on-one battle. They gave up the first round of competition, which was different from giving up directly. Giving up directly meant elimination. And the spoils of the first round of competition were the load around Yuyang City. Giving up the first round did not mean elimination. The workers in the Wing clan only gave up the load, but they could continue to participate in the final battle of the second round. In the second round, the position of commander and deputy commander would be determined from which clan would be chosen. After Zhu Rong heard this, he shook his head and sneered. Gong Gong and Wing River gave up the load, which meant that they were prepared to give it their all and use all their strength in the second round. The two clans would probably join forces to fight against Li Fan. After all, Qin Hao is now unstoppable. It was better to gather everyone's strength and eliminate the Li clan together. Perhaps only then could they defeat Qin Hao and the other two powerful cultivators. This strategy was very correct. An hour ago, Zhu Rong would have given up the load without hesitation. But now he was no longer qualified. Whether it was the first round or the second round, he had lost completely. All right, Emperor Kwa said. He looked at the VIP seats of the four clans. Seeing that the four clan leaders had no objections, Emperor Kwa announced, in the competition for the Yuyang load, the Li clan is first and will take 40% of the total. The workers will take 30%, the Wing clan will take 20%, and the Zhu clan will take the last 10%. Even though the workers and the Wing clan gave up the first round of competition, the rules could not be broken. They had to give what they should give. It was impossible to give all the load to the Li clan. Otherwise, the other three clans would not be able to survive. From the number of participants, there were 5 from the workers, 4 from the Wing clan, and only Zhu Rong from the Zhu clan. So, the ranking was based on the number of participants. Ha ha! Brother Qin, Brother Yi, Brother Jiao, thank you very much. Li Fan stood up and bowed. His attitude was very humble. Qin Hao and the other two looked calm and did not say anything. It was as if everything was normal. If we win the second round, the position of deputy commander will belong to Brother Qin. As for Brother Yi and Brother Jiao, I will not mistreat you. When the Emperor gives the order for me to take over the Red Flame Battalion, I will appoint 2 officers. Brother Yi and Brother Jiao will be officers of the Red Flame Battalion. You will be on the same level as me and Brother Qin, Li Fan said generously. It was as if he already had the position of chief commander. As long as I follow our boss, it doesn't matter where I am. Little Jiao did not care about being in the army. But young Master Li Fan, it may not be easy to fight again, Yi Shuihan said. He looked at Gong Gong and Wing River. At this time, the people of the two clans consciously mixed into one team. It was obvious that they were going to work together. Yes, but I have full confidence in the abilities of the 3 of you. And I will also participate in this battle and fight the enemy side by side with you. Li Fan's eyes burned with fighting spirit. Wisps of fire chi swirled around his body. He was also a peak immortal venerable. He was confident that his strength was not weaker than revered He. Of course, Li Fen would not underestimate Gong Gong and Wing River. As the four young masters of the four clans, they knew each other very well. "Let's get ready," Qin Hao said softly. The four of them moved towards the center of the platform. On the opposite side, the people of the Gong clan and the Wing clan had gathered. The nine-peak immortal venerables stood side by side. "Zhu Rong, will you work with us?" At this time, Wing River shouted at Zhu Rong, who was about to leave the stage. Zhu Rong couldn't help but halt his footsteps. "If you help us defeat Li Fen, the Gong clan and the Wing clan will each give 10% of their mineral veins to the Zhu clan. This way, the Zhu clan will get 30% of the total amount every year. Your cultivation base will not fall because of the lack of resources," Wing River said. "But we can't give up the position of commander and vice commander of the Red Flame Camp," Gong Gong said solemnly. Not only the position of commander, they would also not let any member of the Zhu clan take over the other small positions. This force must be firmly grasped by the Zhu clan. "All right." Zhu Rong hesitated for a second. Then, he turned around and strode into the camp of the Gong clan and the Wing clan. He came to the side of Gong Gong and Wing River. After all, Zhu Rong's strength was not ordinary. He was not weaker than Gong Gong and Wing River. The more combat strength he had, the higher the chance of defeating Qin Hao. After all, Qin Hao was too strong. Gong Gong and Wing River didn't dare to be careless when facing an enemy who had defeated an immortal emperor. Zhu Rong didn't have a choice. He had lost the position of commander. If he only got 10% of the mineral veins, he would be punished by the elders of his clan when he returned. Even his father wouldn't be able to protect him. If his position as the young patriarch was abolished because of this, Zhu Rong's future would be even more difficult. Getting 30% of the mineral veins income for his clan was his only chance to make up for his mistake. Chapter 1476. Two camps stood at the center of the platform. Li Fen, Qin Hao, and Yi stood side by side. Opposite them, the workingmen and Wing clans had joined forces. Together with Zhu Rong, the three clans had joined forces. There were 10 people in total. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. It also broke the rules of the competition between the four clans. In the past, when the competition between the four clans entered the second round, it was usually two clans fighting each other. The winner would then compete with the winner of the other side. But this time, because of Qin Hao and the other two, the balance between the four clans was broken, forcing the workingmen and Wing clans to join forces. It was a first. There are no rules in this round. Under the premise of not killing or maiming, all three clans will be eliminated. As long as one of the remaining clans is still standing, that clan will win, Emperor Quan announced. Those who fell off the platform and lost their ability to fight were eliminated. "Do you understand?" "Understood." On the platform, all the geniuses responded in unison. Casualties were allowed in the first round. After all, there are great differences in strength between some of the participants. But those who could enter the second round were all strong and worthy of training. Moreover, there were also the sons of the four clan leaders in the melee. Under such circumstances, it was not allowed to intentionally kill anyone. For example, Qin Hao killed Vishnu Tien. I'll hold off Gong Gong and Yi Chuan. Although it'll be somewhat difficult, I can still hold on for a short period of time. I'll have to trouble the three of you to quickly deal with the others. Li Fen's eyes were alert as he ordered the battle square. He held off the core figures of the two clans. With Qin Hao, Yi Shuihan, and Little Jio's speed, the others might have been eliminated before Li Fen fell. "Just stand there and watch," Qin Hao said plainly. Li Fen glanced at Qin Hao. What did he mean? Did he despise him? There were 10 enemies on the other side. The core members of the three clans were all present. Wing River's cousin, Yi Wu, was extremely powerful. Gong Gong's twin brother, Gong Xie, was known as the rare genius of the Gong clan. He alone could control 5 to 6 types of venerable immortal artifacts. The three-armed ape god, the blood demon wolf, and the others were only slightly weaker than the revered He. Even if Qin Hao defeated the Vishnu Tien, he would be unstoppable in a one-on-one battle. That was a little too arrogant of himself. After all, there were 10 of them. Do it. Qin Hao didn't have time to care about Li Fun's thoughts. With a command, the 3 of them released their soul power, causing the space around them to tremble. The red lotus tyrannical flame soared out from Qin Hao's body. The blood-like demonic flames were frightening. Yi Shuihen's body glowed with water splendor. Behind him, an ocean of raging waves formed in the void. It was magnificent and majestic. Little Nine's entire body disappeared, turning into a wisp of black gas that floated around like a ghost, emitting an evil and cold aura. Kill! The core disciple of the Gong clan, Gong Gong, let out a long roar. Multicolored magic tools appeared and revolved around his body. There was no need to give any orders. The members of the 3 clans had already made their plans. At this moment, Gong Gong controlled several magic tools with powerful spiritual energy, heading straight for Qin Hao. Screech! Wing River transformed into a golden-winged rock. His wings were as sharp as blades. With a flap of his wings, he soared to the sky and shot out wind blades, all aimed at Qin Hao. Zhu Rong's goal was the same. His body surged with raging flames, as if he had turned into a boiling furnace. An earth-shattering fire spell bombarded out, coordinating with Gong Gong and Wing River to attack Qin Hao. Gong Xie and Yi Wu, who had also transformed into a golden-winged rock, led 2 people to attack Yi Shuihen. The 3-armed divine ape and the demonic blood wolf cooperated with another person to attack Little Nine. The division of labor was very clear. As for Li Fun himself, he was completely ignored by everyone. No one wanted to deal with him. It seemed that in the hearts of Gong Gong and Wing River, Qin Hao and the other 2 Li clan cultivators were the real threat. Therefore, the core members of the 3 clans directly went to deal with Qin Hao. Celestial Sovereign Ruler. Gong Gong roared. He held a magic tool tightly in his hand and slammed it down at Qin Hao from afar. The Celestial Sovereign Ruler was a top-level Celestial Sovereign magic tool. It was a peerless divine soldier that Gong Gong had personally forged on the day he was appointed as the young clan leader. It was recognized by all the elders of the Gong clan. At this moment, his Celestial Sovereign Ruler emitted a blinding light, like a sword slashing out. Endless spiritual energy poured into the Celestial Sovereign Ruler. The sword slashed out, instantly landing on Qin Hao's head. It was extremely fierce. This is a weapon forged by the Xiantian Peak's forging technique. Qin Hao was surprised for a moment. He could tell at a glance that this was an item from the Divine Palace. It was extremely powerful. Gong Gong was a creature of the Illusory Palace. He was born from the formation. His thoughts were instilled by the 7 Peak Masters. He spontaneously believed that the Celestial Sovereign Ruler was forged by him. However, even if it was a magic tool produced by the Xiantian Peak, it was still difficult to shake Qin Hao. As an Emperor Realm expert, what could a mere venerable weapon do to him? Qin Hao was originally a demigod. Moreover, he had been tempered by the Hidden Path spiritual waterfall and the mysterious Heaven Kars cave in the Divine Palace. Even a 9th-level immortal emperor would find it difficult to break through his physical body. He stretched out his big hand, and the red lotus overlord fire rose from his palm to meet the sharp edge of the Celestial Sovereign Ruler. With a bang, the spiritual energy of the Celestial Sovereign Ruler collapsed and scattered in all directions. The incomparably terrifying demonic fire directly shattered the Celestial Sovereign Ruler in Gong Gong's hand. What a strong guy! Amidst the shock, Gong Gong's heart also ached terribly. He raised his hand and threw out the second Dharma artifact. Divine Binding Vine. Whoosh! A vine-like rope flew out and wrapped around Qin Hao's body in the blink of an eye, firmly trapping him and tightening it. Anyone below the Immortal Emperor realm will be unable to release their spiritual energy no matter who is hit by the Divine Binding Vine. Gong Gong couldn't help but be overjoyed. Of course, Qin Hao was an anomaly. He could also kill an immortal emperor. Thus, he didn't expect the Divine Binding Vine to completely seal Qin Hao's spiritual energy. It would be enough to weaken it slightly. After all, Gong Gong wasn't fighting alone. Slash! A sharp sound fell from the sky. Seeing that Qin Hao had been hit, Wing River raised his spiritual energy and poured it into his wings. He slashed crazily and cooperated closely with Gong Gong. Clang! He hit his target. However, as if he had slashed on steel, Qin Hao's clothes were cut open. However, not a single mark was left on his body. How can this be? Wing River was so shocked that he flew into the sky. A huge pain came from his wings, causing him to start doubting his life. Huh? Qin Hao smiled faintly. Am I bullying a child? Wisps of red lotus flames burned, and the divine binding vine was gradually incinerated. With a boom, Qin Hao's feet shook the ground as he soared into the sky. His speed was several times faster than the golden-winged Great Peng Zichuan. Then, an iron hand grabbed Wing River's ankle. If you fly too high, it's easy to forget the distance between you and the ground. This is very dangerous. Qin Hao threw Wing River down with brute force, and Wing River immediately let out a shrill scream. In fact, when that hand grabbed his ankle, Wing River had already lost the connection with his limbs. It was as if his leg had been forcibly broken. At this moment, he was more like a headless fly, involuntarily falling toward the periphery of the platform. Danger! Immortal battle cloud. Upon seeing this, Gong Gong threw out his third Dharma artifact. A cotton-like cloud whizzed over an extremely fast speed. It caught Wing River steadily and carried him back to the platform. Wing River was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Just now, he had frantically struggled, but it was to no avail. Qin Hao's brute force was simply too strong. He even suspected that Zhu Rong's brain was damaged by a pig. How could he chase such a powerful cultivator to Li Fun's camp? If he had known earlier, he would have brought Qin Hao to the wing race through the 8-Tai Bridge. Burial Vishnu Tin might not have lost unjustly because this guy is not human at all. Wing River looked at Qin Hao and said, Chapter 1477. These words should be used on you. Gong Gong's gaze fell on Wing River's wings. This was the first time he heard a demonic beast say that a human wasn't human. However, this person was indeed ridiculously strong. Fortunately, their 3 clans had joined forces, so they could compete with him head-on. If they were alone, they would probably be eliminated in one move. You still have time to gossip? Hurry up and attack. Zhu Rong roared. His hands changed seals, and powerful flame magical arts bombarded Qin Hao continuously. The usually powerful magical arts were completely ineffective at this moment. Once the flames came into contact with Qin Hao, they would be devoured and absorbed by the blood-red demonic flame, turning into a part of the demonic flame. Along with this, Zhu Rong's spiritual energy was rapidly depleted, while Qin Hao's demonic flame was getting stronger and stronger, making people feel like they were about to collapse. This guy's physique is extremely strong, and his soul power is also terrifyingly strong. He seems to have no weakness. Wing River flapped his wings, sweeping away a wind blade that slashed on Qin Hao's body, producing a metallic sound. His physique was indestructible. No matter how strong it is, there's a limit. Once it exceeds that limit, he will definitely not be able to withstand it. Gong Gong said, Of course we know this, but Burial Vishnu Tien couldn't break his defense even after stepping into the immortal Emperor realm. How can we, mere immortal venerables, break it? Zhu Rong's face was sweating more and more. It wasn't because of the heat, but because of nervousness and depression. His spiritual energy was rapidly depleting. If Qin Hao didn't fall, he wouldn't be able to hold on. Use your trump card. Gong Gong was helpless. He looked at the two with a resolute expression and said, The 4 clans have been preparing for this day for 3 months. I don't believe you don't have a trump card given by your clans. If you don't have it, I will admit defeat. While speaking, an exquisite pagoda appeared in Gong Gong's hand. It looked small and delicate, but it emitted an incomparably majestic spiritual energy. When the pagoda appeared, the entire platform bloomed with a dazzling brilliance. Immeasurable pagoda. Wing River was shocked. It was a low-grade immortal emperor artifact forged by the old ancestor of the Gong clan. It was the treasure of the clan and had always been carried by the current patriarch of the Gong clan. Who would have thought that it would be given to Gong Gong? Father gave me the immeasurable tower in order to give you guys an unforgettable blow. Now, the devil on the other side has taken advantage of it. Gong Gong let out a roar as he poured his spirit energy into the immeasurable treasure pagoda. Nourished by the spiritual energy, the pagoda expanded rapidly. It floated in the air like a towering mountain range. The Gong clan patriarch's cultivation base was also at the peak of the immortal venerable realm. His spirit energy foundation was much deeper than Gong Gong's. Activating this immortal emperor magic treasure beyond his realm would cause great damage to him, and he wouldn't be able to use martial arts for half a year. It wasn't hard to imagine that Gong Gong would suffer an even greater backlash from forcefully controlling the tower. However, he was forced into a corner and had no choice but to use it. All right, Wing River was greatly encouraged. He flapped his wings and floated in the air. He slowly took out a set of bows and arrows. This set of bows and arrows looked as if they were formed by a river of stars. They were filled with tyrannical power of stars. It was the treasure of the Winged Clan, the Milky Way Divine Bow. You guys are forcing me to do this. Zhu Rong smiled wryly. His heart was suddenly filled with hot blood. At this moment, the color of the flame on his body gradually changed into a golden radiance. A strand of mortal emperor intent gushed out and erupted with the aura of an immortal emperor, just like the one that buried Vishnu Tin. Sacred flame of the Imperial Lord. Gong Gong and Wing River were shocked at the same time. They couldn't be more familiar with this strand of mortal emperor aura. It was the aura of the current Crimson Flame Sovereign. Zhu Rong had a flame seed refined by the Imperial Lord in his body. Now that he had shattered the seed, his imperial power began to spread, allowing him to control the power of an immortal emperor. The flame seed refined by the Imperial Lord was extremely precious. This one must have been bestowed to the Zhu clan patriarch in consideration of their many years of contributions. For today, the Zhu clan patriarch let Zhu Rong eat this flame seed. He really put a lot of thought into this. However, how could any of the four great clans not have their own clan protection treasures? Whether it was Zhu Rong's Imperial Lord Flame Seed, Wing River's Milky Way Divine Bow, or Gong Gong's immeasurable pagoda, they were all full of immortal emperor power. Of course, the price of using immortal emperor ritual implements and imperial power was extremely high. Next, if Qin Hao wasn't blasted off the platform, then the three of them would be exhausted and unable to fight. Although they didn't want to end up like this, they had no choice. Suppress him. Wing River and Zhu Rong shouted at the same time. At this moment, the Milky Way Divine Bow exploded with extremely turbulent power. The sharp arrow was covered with a layer of starlight. Zhu Rong's burning golden flame also became more and more terrifying. It was like the incarnation of the sun god that could burn everything. At this moment, only if Gong Gong used the immeasurable pagoda to suppress Qin Hao would they have a chance to hit him. Otherwise, based on Qin Hao's speed, it would be very difficult to hit him. Go! Gong Gong's will merged with the pagoda. It was like the incarnation of the pagoda. The towering pagoda whizzed down like 5 overlapping mountains descending upon the world, suppressing Qin Hao. This spectacular scene not only made everyone on the platform stop fighting, but also made the entire audience in Yuyang Training Hall feel suffocated. The immeasurable pagoda has been used, along with Wing Emperor's Milky Way Divine Bow and the Crimson Fire refined by the Imperial Lord. Even if the white-haired warrior loses, he'll be able to laugh proudly in the entire Crimson Flame world. Emperor Kwa said from the battle platform. Although the power of the three treasures was great, Gong Gong, Wing River, and Zhu Rong's cultivation was limited, so the actual damage caused was not that severe. Since Qin Hao could withstand Vishnu Tian's attack, his life should not be in danger. Even so, he would definitely lose. Emperor Kwa was sure of it. Of course, he didn't think that Qin Hao could withstand the three treasures, and he didn't think that Qin Hao would win. Immeasurable pagoda, Milky Way bow, Overlord Qian. Li Fun's breathing stopped, and he suddenly sweated like water. He looked anxious, considering whether or not he should help Qin Hao. Zhu Rong and the other two had trump cards, and so did Li Fun. Moreover, he also had a seed of divine fire given to him by the Overlord. The Li clan and the Zhu clan cultivated the methods modified by Emperor Qian, so they naturally received the same reward. If Li Fun blocked Zhu Rong, the pressure on Qin Hao would be greatly reduced. But did Li Fun really need to do that? Qin Hao can rival the Thunderlord. He won't be defeated so easily. If I use my trump card, once Qin Hao loses, I won't have any chance of winning. It's better to let him and Zhu Rong exhaust each other. It'll be best if they both die, and I will naturally win. After all, Qin Hao is only a helper. I am the main character today. Li Fun suppressed his desire to use the seed of divine fire and smiled coldly. He wouldn't fight Zhu Rong recklessly and end up in a sorry state. If Qin Hao was seriously injured and couldn't enter the Red Flame camp, then the position of deputy commander would fall into Li Fun's hands again. He could then arrange anyone he wanted. After all, Qin Hao and the other two outsiders were too difficult to control. Moreover, their future achievements could be a threat to Li Fun. Buzz! The huge pagoda pressed down, and an unparalleled force enveloped the platform, forcing Qin Hao to take it head-on. However, he didn't panic at this moment. Even though the Imperial weapon above him was made by Xintian Peak, it was only a low-grade Imperial weapon. Its power was limited. Qin Hao used the red lotus fire in his palms to support the pagoda. It was a loud bang. The platform sank and was directly level with the ground. In an instant, smoke rose everywhere. The entire Yuyang training ground shook violently, as if there was an earthquake. Suppressed, huh? Gong Gong laughed wildly. Although he had lost all his spiritual power and was almost exhausted, he had succeeded. Do it, Wing River shouted. He loosened his grip on the arrow. With a whoosh, a beam of starlight shot through the void and fell on Qin Hao, who was under the suppression of the pagoda. After this arrow, Wing River couldn't float anymore. He folded his wings and fell down, looking extremely weak. Along with this, Zhu Rong let out an earth-shattering roar. He slapped his palms forward, and the celestial emperors will shrouded the world. A golden sun flew out of his chest. The power of the red flame seed was awakened and burned Qin Hao together. It's finally over. Looking at this scene, Li Fun sneered. Then, the spiritual power in his body turned into waves of power that constantly attacked the sacred flame seed in his sea of consciousness. He wanted to awaken the power of the Celestial Emperor and attack Zhu Rong and the others. This would also prove that he had defeated the core geniuses of the three clans. However, with a deafening sound, Li Fun was shocked to see that the immeasurable tower that was pressing down on Qin Hao's head was inexplicably sent flying. It rose into the air midway and exploded into pieces, scattering in all directions. This is your trump card? Although I don't want to discourage you, I can't help but want to say that in the face of absolute strength, the so-called cooperation is useless. The smoke and dust slowly dissipated, revealing Qin Hao's brilliant smile. With a boom, his body burned with blood flames. He stretched out his hand and caught the Milky Way arrow shot by Wing River. He felt the power from his palm. It was actually astral origin energy, and it was extremely pure. It had to be said that the three clans had given him a generous gift. Dazzling starlight burst forth as the laws of meteorite circulated. The arrow in Qin Hao's hand melted bit by bit, turning into boundless origin energy that was absorbed by him. At this moment, Qin Hao could faintly sense that his barrier to fifth-level Emperor realm was about to break. How is this possible? Wing River was dumbfounded. The white-haired guy had refined their clan's heirloom. Not only that, but Zhu Rong's golden sun, the sacred flame of the Celestial Emperor, had been slapped back by Qin Hao. Here, take it. It's not pure. Bang! The sacred flame slammed into Zhu Rong. The latter let out a miserable shriek and flew off the stage. His body was charred beyond compare when he landed on the ground. You don't have any arrows left. There's no point in keeping your bow. Give it back." As soon as Qin Hao's voice fell, his figure disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already standing face to face with Yi Chuan. Then, he stretched out his hand and snatched the latter's Milky Way bow. When he circulated his astral energy, the Milky Way bow was absorbed into his body. Wing River wanted to curse. Bang! Wing River fell off the stage with a single slap. "Do you want to go down on your own? Or do you need me to send you on your way?" Qin Hao looked at Gong Gong. Gulp! Gong Gong gulped, his legs shaking. "I still have the strength to walk." As he spoke, he walked off the stage in a daze. When his foot landed on the ground, he fell to the ground, his face covered in dust. He'd used up all of his spirit energy to activate the immeasurable tower. Even if Qin Hao hadn't done anything, Gong Gong wouldn't have been able to resist. "What about the rest of you?" Qin Hao looked at the remaining helpers on the battlefield. Gong Gong's brother, Gong Xie, Wing River's cousin, Yi Wu, the three-armed divine ape, blood demon wolf, and the others all shook their heads helplessly and walked off the stage. "Why are you so quick? I haven't even had my fun yet." Yi Xuehan could feel the surging primordial qi in Qin Hao's body. This was a sign of a breakthrough. He couldn't help but feel envious. Little Nine revealed his true form and shrugged. He didn't care. He was just cooperating with his boss. At this moment, the training hall fell silent again. To Qin Hao and the others, this scene was normal. In the eyes of others, it was simply unbelievable. Defeated. Even if the three races joined forces and used all of their immortal emperor's treasures, they were still defeated by Qin Hao alone. Wasn't this Vishnu Tian's wish when he was alive? Originally, everyone thought that this would be a fierce battle, but in the end, Qin Hao crushed them. In the face of absolute strength, the so-called alliance was useless. This not only made Gong Gong and the others understand Qin Hao's cultivation, but also made all the cultivators in Yu Yang Training Hall reevaluate. To have the courage to say this, especially to shatter the immeasurable tower, refine the Milky Way bow of the Wing Clan, and send Sovereign Qi Yin flying with a wave of his hand, one must have a very strong cultivation to be qualified to say this. In this battle, Li Fen didn't even have a chance to make a move. Brother Qin, you're amazing." Li Fen didn't shatter the scarlet flame seed in his body in the end. At this moment, he walked forward and stuttered in front of Qin Hao. Qin Hao's expression was indifferent. "Ha, it's finally over. Thank you for everything you've done for the Li clan." Li Fen felt a little embarrassed and laughed a few times. "It's over." Qin Hao shook his head. "It's not over. There are only 2 commanders." Then, he looked at Little Nine. Little Nine understood tacitly and calmly walked down the arena. "What do you mean?" Li Fen's face suddenly changed. Of course, he knew that there were only 2 commanders. But why did Qin Hao suddenly say this to him? It's simple. Yi Xuehan stepped forward and pressed his palm on Li Fen's chest. Water vapor spilled out, and the powerful palm force hit the unprepared Li Fen and made him fall off the arena. With a cry, Li Fen lay on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at the 2 figures on the arena in disbelief. Chapter 1478. The Overlord had created the Red Flame Camp, and the commander and deputy commanders were of utmost importance. They were chosen from the disciples of the 4 clans. The 4 clans had been planning for this battle for a long time. They had recruited many talents, and the battle was unprecedentedly intense. However, as the battle went on, the Zhu clan, who had been favored the most, was the first to suffer heavy losses. 9 of their helpers were eliminated, which was unexpected. After all, the Zhu clan had the strongest lineup and had the highest chance of winning. In the end, Zong Vishnu Tan, who had become a celestial emperor, also died on the platform. He had been defeated in his first battle, which made people sigh. He was probably the unluckiest celestial emperor in the Crimson Flame realm. Qin Hao and the other 2 were nobodies. Not only did they defeat the Zhu clan, but they also helped the Li clan gain the upper hand. In the end, they forced the 3 clans to work together and used all their celestial emperor ritual implements. Even so, Gong Gong, Wing River, and Zhu Rong were still defeated. The Li clan's victory was already a foregone conclusion, but no one had expected that Li Fan would be slapped off the platform by Yi Shuihan at the last moment. Qin Hao even said that there would only be 2 commanders. His meaning was clear. The 3 outsiders would replace the Li clan and take charge of the Red Flame camp. But this kind of behavior was already against the will of the Crimson Flame Emperor. Now that the 4 clans were all here and Emperor Kwa was supervising the battle, how could they let it go? A depressing atmosphere filled the training ground. The thousands of people in Yang City broke out in a cold sweat for Qin Hao and the other 2. The situation was getting out of hand. Cultivators, you are bold. Emperor Kwa slowly stood up from his seat. A strong will shrouded the sky and the earth, locking down the entire space. Rolling pressure crushed the platform. His majestic eyes were frightening. How dare you? How dare you? How arrogant. Only then did the leaders of the 4 clans react. Usually, they fought openly and secretly, and there was constant friction. When it came to matters that harmed the interests of the 4 clans, they were quite united. Figures landed on the platform one after another. The 4 clan leaders were furious. If the Li clan had won, it would have been fine. Qin Hao and the other 2 actually dared to steal the limelight. This was absolutely unforgivable. Qin Hao stared at the 4 clan leaders. The killing intent in the eyes of the Li clan leader was the most intense. This was normal as well. After all, Li Fan was only half a step away from the governor's seat. In the end, in front of his father, Qin Hao snatched away the fruits of victory. One could very well imagine the hatred and anger in his heart. Chuckling, Qin Hao said indifferently, "Seniors, do you also want to spar with us juniors? If we win, will you recognize us as commanders? I don't refuse anyone who comes to fight, but if you seniors lose to us, I'm afraid your life's brilliance will be destroyed in an instant." The Li clan leader was so angry that his face was trembling. Of course, Qin Hao had no intention of sparring with him. It was even more impossible for him to go up on the stage and have a fair fight with Qin Hao, because even they were no match for Qin Hao. "What are you trying to do?" Emperor Kwa waved his hand, telling the 4 clans not to act rashly. Emperor Kwa, the Imperial Lord, selects talents, and the capable ones will be chosen as commanders of the Red Flame Battalion. May I ask, does the Imperial Lord keep his word? Qin Hao asked. The Imperial Lord is the ruler of a realm. Of course he keeps his word. Emperor Kwa replied. If that's the case, why do you have such an attitude when we win? Qin Hao asked again. Young man, are you really stupid, or are you playing dumb? The Red Flame Battalion is the Imperial Lord's personal army. In the future, it will be the #1 immortal elite of the Red Flame realm. It will conquer the 4 seas and protect the peace of the realm. The position of commander is so important that it is not something an ordinary person can take. Only the disciples of the 4 clans are qualified. The Li clan leader sneered. Who among the cultivators of Yang City did not know this in their hearts? Otherwise, why would the Imperial Lord select talents from the 4 clans? I think he's crazy about standing out. Don't think that just because you've cultivated for a few years and have some ability, you can look down on the Red Flame realm and become a giant of the new generation of immortal cultivators. Don't look down on the 4 clans. Little brat, I'll tell you right now, no matter how strong you are, you're not as important as the 4 clans, the Zhu clan leader said. The clan leader of the Zhu tribe roared. Zhu Rong had suffered the power of the Imperial Lord's fire seed, and his injuries were severe. If he hadn't cultivated the Imperial Lord's mental cultivation method since he was young, Qin Hao's attack would have killed Zhu Rong. It's a waste of time to talk nonsense with them. Please, Emperor Kwa, kill these 3 scoundrels. The Gong clan leader said. Please kill the 3 of them, Emperor Kwa, and avenge the Wing clan. The Wing clan leader knelt before Emperor Kwa and begged with a pained heart. The Tianhe divine bow, which had been passed down in their family, had been refined into the body of the white-haired cultivator. It was really infuriating. You've disrupted the competition between the 4 clans, seized the treasures of the 4 clans, and turned against your masters as guests. Any one of these is enough to consign you to eternal damnation. Considering your extraordinary cultivation, I've decided to pardon you on behalf of the Imperial Lord. You'll become the death servants of the Red Flame Palace as sinners, and you'll repay the Imperial Lord's kindness in the future. Men, take them all and throw them into the death servant camp. As for the competition between the 4 clans, we'll hold it again another day and elect 2 new commanders, Emperor Qua ordered. Emperor Qua ordered. As the brother of the Emperor, he was in charge of overseeing the competition. He had full authority to deal with all kinds of emergencies. Yes, a large group of black-robed cultivators suddenly appeared outside the training ground. All of them had powerful auras, and they were at least high-level immortal venerables. They surrounded Qin Hao and Yishui Han, including Little Jiao, who was standing below the platform. Take them down. Kill anyone who resists, one of the black-robed leaders said. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The black-robed cultivators threw out a bunch of chains, which swept toward Qin Hao and the other 2. Get lost. Yishui Han suddenly twisted his body. Buzz. A majestic water force spread out and swept across the platform like a wave. The turbulent momentum blasted the black-robed cultivators one by one, and they all spat out blood and fell down. You're rebelling? Clan leader Li Fun roared angrily. Ha! You're being unreasonable, so of course I'm rebelling. Qin Hao said coldly. You want to reason with me? Emperor Qua also laughed. Trying to reason with a celestial emperor in the Crimson Flame world? How can a junior like you know the fate of a floating ant? Boom! A dazzling golden light shot up from the platform and into the sky. In an instant, the aura of a celestial emperor descended, shocking the world. This power forcibly drove away Emperor Qua's will and took control of half of Yuyang training ground. It came from Yishui Han. The celestial emperor realm. Emperor Qua's body shook violently. Looking at Yishui Han's golden flame, his heart trembled. Boom! Another golden light shot up from below the platform. Although it was also golden, compared to Yishui Han's vital chi that emitted a faint blue halo, this one in the crowd was wrapped in a dark halo and looked very gloomy. It was Little Jiao, the dark celestial emperor. The Li clan leader took a few steps back in shock. The fate of a floating ant? Who called me an ant? Qin Hao roared. Suddenly, the flames around him raged, and a beam of golden light shrouded him, lingering around his blood-red, demonic flames. His white hair was wild, and he looked like both a celestial and a demon. His aura was domineering. The 3rd celestial emperor. The Zhu clan leader was so shocked that he fell on his butt. He couldn't find any words to express the shock in his heart. You're being unreasonable, so we'll have to be unreasonable as well. Let's see how Emperor Qua will make my life like a floating ant. Qin Hao pointed proudly at the celestial emperor on the supervising platform. My life is in my hands, not in the hands of the heavens and not in the hands of others. Who said that there were only 4 celestial emperors in the Crimson Flame world? From now on, there were 7. Chapter 1479. In the training ground, 3 beams of golden flames emitted endless light, powerful and intimidating. The figures in the flames were as sacred as gods. Above the void, there were 4 celestial emperor wills fighting against each other. The entire Yuyang city was suppressed by these 4 emperor wills, and the sky and earth changed color. The extremely powerful celestial emperor wills terrified all the cultivators and people present. Even though Qin Hao and the other 2's auras were not as strong as Emperor Qua's, they were all celestial emperors. Now that 3 of them had appeared at the same time, how could the people of the 4 clans not be terrified? Celestial emperors were the pinnacle of the Crimson Flame world. They were below the emperor and above everyone else. There were even rumors that once a cultivator reached the celestial emperor realm, even if he walked out of the Crimson Flame world and went to any realm, he would have a place in the world and could do whatever he wanted. At this moment, Everyone completely understood why Qin Hao and the other two had been able to sweep through the three clans in this competition of the four clans. Even Lord He and Lord Lei could not stop them. It was because their true identities were celestial emperors. Vishnu Tian's death was not unjust at all. At this moment, the Li clan leader and the other three clan leaders could only smile bitterly. Qin Hao and the other two cultivators were celestial emperors, which explained why the treasures of the four clans had been ineffective. Moreover, even if Emperor Kwa personally appeared, he would not be able to do anything to the three of them. It was not that Emperor Kwa was afraid, but if the three of them wanted to leave, Emperor Kwa would not be able to stop them. What was the life of a floating ant? People came and went as they pleased. How could they be called floating ants? The three of you have hidden yourselves well. Emperor Kwa let out a long breath and dispersed the Run Huang will that shrouded the void. He waved his hand, dismissing his black-robed subordinates, and took the initiative to land on the platform. As celestial emperors, he naturally could not treat cultivators of the same level as him with a superior attitude. Even the strength of Qin Hao and the other two was not a threat to him. I have no choice. Forgive me. Qin Hao smiled, and the three of them dispersed the Renwang will. At this moment, the terrible aura that shrouded Yuyang City collectively dissipated. Everyone present breathed a sigh of relief, feeling as if they had survived a disaster. Could the three of you please come with me to Yuyang Palace for a talk? Emperor Kwa invited him politely. All right, Qin Hao nodded. Emperor Kwa was no longer hostile. He would definitely negotiate with Qin Hao and the others to keep them in the Crimson Flame realm. As for the position of commander, it was not important at all. Brother Jing Xian, bring Jing Shui and Gooden. Qin Hao turned around and said. At this time, Tang Jingxian was still in shock. Tang Jingxue, who was beside him, pushed him a few times before Tang Jingxian came back to his senses. He quickly nodded, picked up Gooden, and held Tang Jingshue's hand to catch up. Although Tang Jingxian had a strong sense of inferiority in his heart and felt that he didn't deserve to appear by Qin Hao's side again. But for the sake of Tang Jingshue's illness, even if he had to throw away his pride, he was willing to do anything. Wait! At this time, Li Fin staggered to his feet and quickly caught up to them, blocking Qin Hao's path. Impudent! Emperor Kwa shouted with a stern face. His voice scared Li Fin so much that he trembled violently. Finner, what are you waiting for? The Li clan leader also shouted. The current situation was not something the four clans could interfere with. Whether the emperor rewarded or punished Qin Hao, it was not up to the Li clan to tell them what to do. But thinking about it, the emperor would definitely put these three people in important positions. After all, they were celestial emperors. It should be known that the forefather of the Gong clan and the forefather of the Wing clan were only celestial emperors. They had received the emperor's favor and had spread their branches and leaves, establishing two great clans. In the future, there would be three more powerful clans in the Crimson Flame realm, and the Li clan was no longer enough in front of Qin Hao. He was a great figure who was about to be on the same level as the forefather of the Gong clan and the forefather of the Wing clan. I won't. Li Fin clenched his fists and resisted. Although he was in great awe of Emperor Kwa, there were some things that needed to be said. He took a few deep breaths and looked at Qin Hao. You said that you would win for the Li clan. This is something you promised yourself. As a celestial emperor, you have a nerve to go back on your words? Obviously, Li Fin had not given up on the position of commander. He hoped that Qin Hao would give it to him. Yes, I did promise to help the Li clan win, but I did not say that the winner would be you. Qin Hao laughed coldly and no longer looked at Li Fan. This Li Fan was narrow-minded and not worth being associated with, so there was no need to give him any dignity. You? Li Fan was very angry, but he could not find a reason to refute. Qin Hao had indeed helped the Li clan to the final victory, but he had also become a supporter of the Li clan. Leave. Emperor Kwa warned again. His tone was very dissatisfied. Yes. Li Fan bowed and left, but at this moment, he looked at Qin Hao with eyes full of hatred. He had worked so hard, but he did not expect that others would take advantage of him. Qin Hao and the others followed Emperor Kwa to Yuyang City's Emperor Kwa Hall. The remaining members of the four clans had mixed feelings, but there was nothing they could do. In this battle, many of them had died or been injured. The core disciples were all injured, and among them, Zhu Rong's injuries were the most serious. He had been severely injured by Qin Hao. It was unknown if he could recover his cultivation base. Moreover, other than the Li clan, the other three clans had also lost their ancestral treasures. The losses were heavy. Emperor Kwa's Hall. Emperor Kwa was the sworn brother of Emperor Qi Yan. He had been guarding Yuyang City and had set up a magnificent palace to deal with the affairs of the four clans. At this time, Qin Hao and the others entered the supreme Emperor Kwa's Hall in Yuyang City. Emperor Qin, Emperor Yi, Emperor Jiu, you three have gone too far today. Stepping into the hall, Emperor Kwa gestured for everyone to take a seat. He spoke very naturally, and there was no reproach in his tone. We have worked hard for 100 years and finally comprehended the will of the Celestial Emperor. We wanted to be famous all over the world and build achievements. This time, the Emperor was recruiting people, so we suppressed our cultivation and joined. We had no choice but to do so. I hope Emperor Kwa can understand. Qin Hao smiled and said, I understand. May I know which clans and sects you three belong to? Emperor Kwa asked. We have no clans or sections. The three of us have sealed ourselves in the Dayo Mountains of the Hundred Lands. We are determined not to enter the Emperor Plane and not to step on the path of the mortal world. Qin Hao explained. When they were young, Yi Shuihan and Little Jiu had become friends after a fight. They became sworn brothers and were determined to enter the Emperor Plane. They worked hard in the Dayo Mountains and cultivated for 200 years. The heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. Finally, they broke through to the celestial Emperor Plane. Brother Qin is so old. Tang Jingxue was very surprised. She thought that Qin Hao was not much older than her. Jingxue, don't talk too much, Tang Jingxian said sternly. They were not qualified to interrupt when the celestial emperors were talking. They just had to listen. Haha, it's fine. Emperor Kwa smiled. He could see that Qin Hao treated the siblings well. He explained, cultivators have long lives. It's just that because of cultivation, their appearance does not change much. In fact, I have lived for 300 years. Judging from this, Emperor Qin, Emperor Yi, and the 9 emperors are more talented than me. Emperor Kwa, you are a cultivator of the 4th level of the Emperor Plane. We have just reached the 2nd level of the Emperor Plane. We are not talented, Qin Hao said with a smile. His words were polite, which indirectly raised Emperor Kwa's status. Ha ha ha, Emperor Qin is a humble man. Since you all have great ambitions and are willing to serve the Emperor, why don't you stay in Emperor Kwa's palace for a few days? Let me go to the Crimson Flame Palace to see my brother, and then I will inform Emperor Qin. What do you think? Emperor Kwa asked for Qin Hao's opinion and showed enough respect. All right, Qin Hao had the same idea. Brother Qin, you are a straightforward person. It's very comfortable to talk to someone like you. In fact, it's not about who serves whom. At our level, pursuing the great path of the Emperor Plane is the truth. My brother's plane is very high. With his guidance, we will not take any detours in our cultivation in the future. We will all be brothers in the future. You will all get along. Emperor Kwa was an easygoing person. His words won over Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan. Everything will be arranged by you, Brother Kwa. Qin Hao said. Yi Shuihan and Little Jiu nodded at the same time. All right, I will go to Crimson Flame City first. My brother should have sensed your Celestial Emperor Qi and is probably puzzled. You can have fun for a few days and just wait for my good news. Emperor Kwa said politely and left the Divine Palace. His aura disappeared in the direction of Crimson Flame City. Chapter 1480. 3 celestial emperors had appeared out of nowhere in Yuyang City. It was a serious matter. Emperor Kwa had to report to Emperor Qi Yan to ease his concerns, so as to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings with Qin Hao. He also had to inform him of the results of the competition between the 4 clans. After Emperor Kwa left, everyone stayed in the Divine Palace. Yang City was not too far from Red Flame City. They would soon see Emperor Qi Yin himself. During this time, Qin Hao could help Tang Jingxue get rid of the cold fire disease she was born with. The fire poison and cold poison in Jingshue's body are innate. It is not easy to get rid of them. Ordinary herbs cannot cure them. The most direct and effective way is to change her blood. Moreover, the change of blood can only relieve the pain temporarily. The poison has already eroded her organs, limbs, and bones. After a long time, the poison will return to its former strength. Qin Hao explained the seriousness of the situation. Emperor Qin, what should we do? Tang Jingxian asked anxiously. 2 streaks of tears fell from his painful expression. He and his sister depended on each other. Tang Jingxue was his everything. I felt it long ago. Maybe this is fate. Brother, it's okay. As long as you can live well, start a family, and restore the Tang clan, I can die in peace. Tang Jingxue wiped away Tang Jingshuan's tears. Life and death were no longer important. Maybe death was a relief. Changing blood requires the blood of a close relative, and the danger is quite high. But this is the last resort. If you can use the power of magic to purify Jingshue's body and absorb all the poison in her, you can give her a healthy future. Qin Hao said seriously. This was the most ideal way to treat him. Tang Jingxian was dumbfounded when he heard this. It was easy to say, who would want to take the poison out and transfer it to someone else? Moreover, where could he find such a master with such ability? I was born with a fire origin spirit. It is strong and yang. I can draw half of Jing Shue's poison into my body. As for the other half, Qin Hao looked at Yi Shui Han with a smile. Yi Shui Han understood. He nodded and said, let me take it. Although it is not an ice origin spirit, this extreme Yin poison can't do anything to me. Qin Hao nodded. This was good. An ice cultivator was the most suitable to take away Tang Jingshue's ice poison. It would be better if Wan Qin was by his side. But Yi Shui Han had a water divine body and could swallow the power of the 4 seas. No. Tang Jingxian was startled at first, but he quickly shook his head and refused. Qin Hao and Yi Shui Han were both immortal emperors with powerful cultivation bases. They were equipped to withstand the poison. But he couldn't implicate them. That's enough, brother Jingxian. Being acquainted with each other is the arrangement of fate. Maybe the heavens sent us here to save Jing Shui. Actually, you don't have to worry. Once the fire poison enters my body, it will be refined and eliminated by my soul force. The same goes for the water frost. The poison won't be able to harm us in the slightest. But if it remains in Jing Shue's body, she won't be able to accompany you for long. Qin Hao said, thank you, Emperor Qin and Emperor Yi. I can't repay you in this life. In my next life, I will be your slave to repay your kindness. Tang Jingxian clenched his fists. He knelt in front of the 2. He couldn't lose his only sister. Let's remove the poison for Jing Shui. Qin Hao got up and asked the others to stay away. He waved his hand and set up a layer of energy barrier. Then he and Yi Shui Han stood on either side of Tang Jingxue. Jing Shui, no matter how painful the process is, you must guard your mind and tell yourself that you will survive. Qin Hao urged. If there was a mistake, there would be nothing he could do. Even the tranquil water couldn't save her. Okay. Tang Jingxue nodded. She bit her red lips with her white teeth and used the pain to stimulate her nerves. Do it. Qin Hao glanced at Yi Shui Han. Suddenly, the power of primordial fire condensed in his palm and pressed on Tang Jingshue's left shoulder. On the right, Yi Shui Han was full of water power. A clear stream curled around his palm and pressed on Tang Jingshue's shoulder. The fire and cold poison was left by the 7 peak masters of the Divine Palace when they reversed the yin and yang and set up the matrix. Maybe there was a mistake when they shaped the life of the creatures of the illusory palace. After all, no matter how strong the 7 peak masters were, they couldn't take care of every creature. It was like the ancient goddess Nuwa creating humans. Unfortunately, Tang Jingxue was that exception. In the illusory palace, because the nature of the creatures was different, Qin Hao's third soul power, the tranquil water, was completely ineffective. Therefore, he needed to use the poison-drawing method to remove the fire and cold poison from Tang Jingshua's body. At this moment, everyone present was nervous. Tang Jingxian and Little Nine were on tenterhooks outside the enchantment. Every second that passed felt like a year. Inside the enchantment, Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan were very vigilant. They carefully controlled the power of their primordial spirits and poured it into Tang Jingshua's body. Tang Jingshua's cultivation was weak. Even if the poison in her body was very strong, she still couldn't resist the erosion of the red lotus tyrannical fire and the absorption of Yi Shuihan's immortal emperor power. At this time, her poison was stimulated and she fell into the alternating heat and cold. One side of her body was burning, the other side was falling into an ice cave. The pain was unbearable, but she remembered Qin Hao's words. She bit her red lips and guarded her mind. She wanted to live. She wanted to live like a normal girl. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. Come out, Qin Hao shouted, sweat forming on his forehead. The red lotus tyrannical fire under his palm was like a fire python that swallowed everything, frantically absorbing the fire poison in Tang Jingshua's body. Wisps of strong poison turned into strange, dark tongues of flame, constantly drilling into Qin Hao's palm. Every time he absorbed a wisp, his face would dim a little, and the blood-red, demonic flames emitting from his body would weaken a little. After all, the power of the poison was accidentally left behind by the 7 divine palace peak masters. The difference in strength between Qin Hao and the other peak masters was not small. On the other side, Yi Shuihan's situation was not much better than Qin Hao's. He had underestimated the power of the poison of extreme Yin. After 10 breaths, his cheeks began to freeze, his eyebrows and hair gradually froze, and the blood flow in his body became slower and slower. After 20 breaths, his whole body felt frozen, and his bone marrow was tingling. Fortunately, there were countless creatures in the illusory palace, and the power that the peak masters of the 7 peaks had poured into Tang Jingshua was not too strong. After 30 breaths, the fire and cold poison had been absorbed by Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan, and Tang Jingshua's inner palace had also been purified by their soul force. Wong. The enchantment dispersed. Qin Hao's cheeks were dark black, his lips were purple, and a few black poisonous flames drilled out of his body from time to time. It was very frightening, and it also made him feel weak. Yi Shuihan was even more embarrassed. He sat cross-legged on the ground, unable to bear it for even a second. He refined the ice poison in his body on the spot. The moment he sat down, his whole body was quickly covered by a layer of gray ice, and he began to freeze into a human-shaped ice cube. It can't be that bad. Xiao Jiu was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan were Ren Huang, and their real cultivation was at the 5th level of the Emperor realm. Moreover, they were disciples of the Divine Palace, far stronger than the Ren Huang outside. Just a little bit of fire and cold poison was enough to make them like this. Get out. Xiao Jiu, look after Gooden. Qin Hao ordered, and then sat on the ground. The red lotus soul essence in his body began to counterattack, preparing to refine the fire poison. Emperor Qin, Emperor Yi, Brother Jingxian, take Sister Shuer out first. Boss and Shuihan will be fine. Xiao Jiu picked up Gooden and quickly ran out of the room. Brother, don't distract Brother Qin and Brother Yi. Let's go out. Tang Jingxue was also very weak, but with the 2 poisons out of her body, she felt unprecedentedly relaxed. Okay. Tang Jingxian supported Tang Jingxue and left. One day later, Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan had completely refined the fire and cold poison. Although the tranquil water had lost its healing effect, it was still used to recover Yuan Qi very quickly. Qin Hao woke up earlier than Yi Shuihan, and the overall consumption was not great. Yi Shuihan was a bit worse. After refining the cold poison, he had lost more than 70% of his Yuan Qi. He only had the strength to move freely after taking many pills. Thank you, Emperor Qin and Emperor Yi. Tang Jingxian personally cooked and made a bunch of tonics to reward Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan. He was very happy that Tang Jingxue had returned to normal. You're too distant to call us that. Qin Hao smiled and began to eat and drink without hesitation. Boss, Emperor Kwa just sent a message saying that he has told the Emperor of Red Flame everything here. The Emperor wants the three of us to go to Red Flame City. He, the Emperor of Work, and the Emperor of Wings will welcome us, Xiao Jiu said. Emperor Kwa had not come back, but Red Flame City had sent a messenger. Brother Jingxian, what are your plans for the future? Qin Hao asked. They were about to leave, so Tang Jingxian and Tang Jingxue naturally could not stay in Emperor Kwa's palace. I want to take Shui back to her hometown, Tang Jingxian said seriously. In the past, the Tang clan had been destroyed because of the feud between the clans. In fact, it was not a matter of who was right or wrong. Every clan only cared about their own interests. Now that he had entered the Celestial Lord plane, he could wipe out his old enemies and completely protect Tang Jingxue. If Tang Jingxue had not been sick before, he would have wanted to return to the ancestral land. Don't you want to go to Red Flame City with us? Yi Shuihan said with a smile. With the protection of the three celestial emperors, Tang Jingxian would have a bright future. Tang Jingxian shook his head. I can't be a burden to the three of you anymore. With us around, you may have a lot of inconveniences. My hometown is in the West Wind Nation of Huang State. If Brother Qin needs us, you can send someone to Thousand Search Island to find us at any time. Very well. Qin Hao nodded. There were indeed many inconveniences for Tang Jingxian and Tang Jingxue to follow them. If they were not careful, their lives could be in danger. Brother Qin, I will remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You are a good person. In the future, the descendants of the Tang clan will worship the three of you as ancestors for generations. Tang Jingxue happily took out a scroll, which depicted the figures of Qin Hao and the others. In the scroll, Qin Hao's white hair fluttered in front of his forehead, and his body was surrounded by flames, like a god of fire. Yi Shuihan and Little Gio accompanied him on both sides. It was quite a scene. Ha ha! Little Gio slapped the table and laughed. I never thought that there would be a day when I would be worshipped as an ancestor. Be serious, Qin Hao said in a low voice, clenched his fist, and put it to his mouth. Cough, cough. You don't have to be like this. Everything in the illusory palace was illusory, but the brother and sister in front of him, whether it was their personality or their friendship, were so real. After a meal, Qin Hao and the Tang siblings parted and gave some powerful self-defense methods to Tang Jingxue. Next, the three of them took Gooden to the main city of the Crimson Flame world, Crimson Flame City. The Crimson Flame Emperor, a high-level celestial emperor, was the master of a realm. He was assisted by Emperor Kwa, Emperor Gong, and Emperor Yi. No matter what happened in the vast Crimson Flame world, nothing could escape the intelligence network of the Crimson Flame Palace. Qin Hao and the others went to the Crimson Flame Palace as celestial emperors to meet the Crimson Flame Emperor and establish a good relationship with him. Then, they could search for people in the Crimson Flame world or find the mysterious palace flag. It would save them a lot of trouble. At this time, in the solemn and sacred Crimson Flame City, a cold-browed young man and a bald old man sat in a wine shop and drank. Little brother is almost here, Changyu said. Whether he lives or dies this time depends on his luck. You and I can't break the rules. Eastern Sky's eyes were clouded with sadness. He seemed to be worried. Big brother, are you really not going to help? Changyu glanced at Eastern Sky. This could be called a sure-kill situation. Even if Yi Shuihan and Little Gio were accompanying him, there was still a big gap between Qin Hao and the person hiding behind him. After all, Qin Hao had exposed himself, and the person behind him was like a mantis stalking a cicada. Moreover, Gooden was also an extremely unstable factor. If little brother is in fatal danger, I'll allow you to help once. After a long time, Eastern Sky sighed. He was still a junior brother after all. Why me? Changyu threw the wine glass on the table angrily. Did you want to break the rules? and take the blame? Because if you don't help, I'll tell the master that you didn't help. Who do you think the master will believe? Eastern Sky grinned. He was the future successor to the position of Palace Lord. Moreover, Eastern Sky was a rigid person who never lied. Everyone in the Divine Palace knew that. Comparing character? Chapter 1481. Outside the Red Flame City, Qin Hao and the others flew over. They arrived at the main city of the Red Flame sector in about an hour. Immortal Emperors, please take a look. That is the Red Flame Peak. At this moment, the Emperor Lord and several other Immortal Emperors are waiting for you. This lowly one can only welcome you to this step. The emissary bowed. Qin Hao nodded and ordered the emissary to leave. He hovered in the void and scanned the entire Red Flame City. It was like a city in flames. The trees emitted flame-shaped spirit chi, and the rivers flowed like lava. Everywhere was filled with a strong flame aura. There were workshops and taverns in the city, but there were no ordinary people. The people walking on the streets were full of cultivators. Groups of soldiers patrolled the city. Their armor was bright, and the fiery red armor flowed with a strong flame aura. Obviously, this was a city of soldiers. There were barracks and arsenals everywhere. The Red Flame Emperor had stored his strongest forces here. There were no weak or idle people in the city, as expected of the main city of the sector. Qin Hao praised. Although Yuyang City was overseen by the 4 great clans and was filled with experts, it couldn't be compared to Red Flame City. Just the murderous aura here was 10 times stronger than Yuyang City. Even compared to the imperial capitals of the empires outside, Red Flame City's rules were much stricter. At this time, Qin Hao looked at the center of the city. There was a giant peak there. Lava flowed from the giant peak. It stood between heaven and earth like a flame giant, domineering beyond compare. At the top of the peak, there was a magnificent imperial palace. Gorgeous flames shrouded the imperial palace, giving people a sacred feeling that they couldn't look up. There was a terrible flame aura emitting from it. It was as if the temperature and light of the entire Red Flame sector came from the imperial palace of Red Flame Peak. Let's go, Qin Hao said. The Red Flame Emperor had been waiting for a long time. Naturally, the master of a sector wouldn't come out to welcome them personally. Yi Shuihan and Little Nine nodded. The 3 of them turned into light shadows and landed on Red Flame Peak at the same time. When they landed on the peak, the surrounding flame aura was even stronger. It made people feel like they were in a cauldron, as if they were about to be refined. Even people as strong as Yi Shuihan and Little Nine were affected by the huge flame aura. Their bodies were affected to a certain extent. So hot. Yi Shuihan looked around and circulated the water essence in his body, making him feel better. Little Nine was the same. The Crimson Flame Emperor is the master of an entire realm. How could the top figures we've seen so far be ordinary? Qin Hao smiled. He wasn't affected at all. A stream of tranquil water yuan qi flowed into Gooden's body, forming an ingenious spirit array that prevented Gooden from being harmed by the fire energy. Your Majesty, I've been waiting. Little Nine shouted towards the majestic palace above. The surroundings were completely silent, as though something was wrong. Roar! Suddenly, the roars of magical beasts shook the sky. Then, numerous figures rushed in from all directions. In the void, army formations flew over and formed an offensive formation. The color of each army's armor was different, representing the 3 immortal emperors. Within the great formation, flaming lions bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws were shuttling back and forth. There were riders riding on the backs of the lions, and there were even dragon-shaped flaming creatures coiling about, emitting a terrifying aura. On the flat ground below, dozens of flaming Zoomer beasts stood upright. They were more than 10 feet tall and spat out flames. It was very shocking. In a moment, Qin Hao and the others were surrounded by a large number of armies and magical beasts, like caged beasts. What is the meaning of this? Yi Shuihan's face turned cold. The messengers said that the Crimson Flame Emperor had set up a banquet to welcome them. When they arrived, was this the way to welcome them? Kill! A loud shout came from somewhere. Then, the three of them saw a golden-winged roc flying out of the palace. Its aura was extremely shocking, far from what the Wing clan of Yuyang City could compare to. The golden-winged roc let out a sharp cry, and its sharp claws fell directly, stirring up a monstrous gale as it smashed towards Qin Hao's head. At the same time, the ground army formation suddenly separated, and a tall and fierce man ran out from the back. The fierce man was bare-chested, and he held a giant hammer in his hand. He dragged a trail of sparks on the ground and shattered the stone slabs on the ground. He leaped high and let out a roar, and the giant hammer wreaked havoc with golden flames as it fell towards the three of them. What a joke! Little Nine sneered, and the spell in his hands changed. A huge black fog appeared around his body, forming into a pitch-black shield, blocking the fierce man's giant hammer. Yi Shuhan's eyes emitted a cold intent, and his body was filled with raging waves. Just as the golden-winged roc's claws fell from the sky, a golden water spear condensed in his palm, and he threw it with all his might. This spear arrived in an instant, as fast as a shooting star. The fire-ling chi of the entire Scarlet Flame Peak was stirred up by the water-ling chi of this spear. Pung! The golden-winged roc's claws clashed with the water spear, and with a powerful attack, the golden water spear disintegrated, but it shook off the water-ling chi, and countless streams of water-ling chi rushed towards the golden-winged roc's body, causing it to retreat in the air. At this time, the fierce man's giant hammer also landed on Little Nine's magic shield. The shield suddenly exploded with a pitch-black luster, filling the sky. A 10,000-year-old Xuanwu shadow appeared and blocked the falling hammer. Immediately, the space shook and buzzed. The various armies and flying magical beasts in the sky were swept away by the aftershocks, and their formations were instantly messed up. Thud, thud, thud. Little Nine took several steps back. At this moment, the shadow of the Xuanwu was broken by the fierce man's giant hammer, causing the blood in his body to surge. He felt as if he had been hit by a giant hammer. At this moment, he could not help but look surprised. When he first entered the Divine Palace, Little Nine had chosen Mizang Hall to learn the way of killing from Mizang Warlord. Although Little Nine's soul was more an assassin's type, and defense was not his strong suit, the Xuanwu heavy shield technique he had just used was a mid-level Imperial method learned from Mizang Hall, and it had been shattered by the fierce man's hammer. One could only imagine how strong the opponent's physical strength was. Ha ha! Brother Qin, Brother Yi, Brother Jiao, the three of you are extraordinary. A hearty laugh was heard, and then a handsome middle-aged man walked out of the Imperial Palace. With just a few simple steps, he had already arrived at the center of the field, standing opposite Qin Hao. Emperor Qua was beside the handsome middle-aged man. Overlord. Qin Hao raised his hand and smiled. There was no need to guess. This was the master of the Scarlet Flame realm, the current Scarlet Flame Emperor. In the past, we brothers set the rule that like-minded friends who want to join must go through a test. Emperor Qua explained with a smile. This was to test the abilities of Qin Hao and the others. If they were too weak, the Scarlet Flame Palace would not treat them as equals. At most, they would be given a position, and not the brothers that Emperor Qua had mentioned before. For example, when Vishnu Tien came here, he also had a fight to be tested. Of course, the Scarlet Flame Emperor's people would suppress their cultivation to the same level as Qin Hao, which was the second-tier Immortal Emperor. I wonder if our performance has satisfied the Overlord. Qin Hao looked at the Scarlet Flame Emperor with a smile. I've already called you brother, and you tell me if you're satisfied or not. Ha ha! The Scarlet Flame Emperor laughed and took a few steps forward. He raised his hand and patted Qin Hao on the shoulder. Seeing this scene, Yishuahin's eyes flashed with a touch of displeasure, but he was not in the mood to argue with the Scarlet Flame Emperor, as expected of the person who refined the Milky Way bow. With such ability, it is an honor for my sons to be defeated. In the air, the golden-winged roc spoke in human language. The next second, it turned into a middle-aged man in a golden robe and landed next to the Scarlet Flame Emperor. He looked at Yi Shuai Han with admiration. I made that broken bow of yours. By the way, little brother, your body looks weak, but I didn't expect your defense to be so strong. You scared me." The fierce man with the giant hammer put it on his shoulder and laughed at little Nine. "Cough, cough. I learned some superficial skills from my big brother. In fact, defensive spells are the least of my skills," little Nine said proudly. It was the first time he had heard someone praise him for his tough skin. After all, the ones who could withstand the attacks of the Divine Palace had always been the muscular monsters like Sea Sand, Tsyogwa, and Luo Yuliang. Of course, Qinghao is a monster among monsters. If the immeasurable tower is broken, then so be it. I won't look into it, and I won't allow the workingmen to look into it. Come, let's go to the Scarlet Flame Palace. Whoever gets drunk first today is a coward." The fierce man was the great elder of the workingmen. He reached out and grabbed little Nine's arm, pulling him toward the Scarlet Flame Palace. "Hey, this isn't good. You're pulling me," little Nine protested, but he could not stop walking. The workingman emperor has always been forthright and straightforward. "Don't mind him," Emperor Kwa said with a smile. Emperor Kwa smiled, and the group headed for the Crimson Flame Palace. In the palace, a feast had been prepared. There were all kinds of delicacies and nectar, emitting a tempting aroma that stimulated one's appetite. Gooden had never seen so much good food. Following Qinghao all the way, he had gradually become more courageous. After everyone sat down, the first to eat was Gooden. He reached out and grabbed a piece of roasted meat dripping with oil and began to eat. But his other hand held the package in his arms tightly as usual. "This kid has no manners." Yi Shuihan knocked Gooden's head. "No need to be so formal." The Scarlet Flame Emperor did not care. He looked at Qinghao and said, "That day, when I was comprehending in the palace, I suddenly felt the qi of the Celestial Emperor erupt in Yuyang City. I was wondering who it was, but the qi suddenly disappeared. In the next second, 3 more powerful auras erupted. If Emperor Kwa was not still in Yuyang City and could not sense his aura, I would have thought that someone from another realm had come to attack the Scarlet Flame world." Just as Qinghao expected, the sudden appearance of several celestial emperors would certainly make the Scarlet Flame Emperor suspicious. But Emperor Kwa must have explained all of this. "Vishnu Tien humiliated me first. I should have killed him. It was my fault that you lost such an expert," Qinghao said apologetically. "I've heard of Vishnu Tien," the Scarlet Flame Emperor said. "His attainments in thunder arts are indeed extraordinary. Since he was defeated by you, it only proves that Brother Qin's ability is better. So what if he dies? This person is not worth mentioning," the Scarlet Flame Emperor said. Losing one Celestial Emperor was nothing. Now he had gained 3. The battle between the 4 clans has ended. Since the 3 of you have won, you should take over the Scarlet Flame Battalion. However, don't you think it's a waste for a Celestial Emperor to be a commander? The Winged Emperor asked at this moment. "I think so too. Just let the Celestial Lords of the 4 clans take care of a mere commander. Brother Qin, Brother Yi, and Brother Jiao, if you have any requests, feel free to ask." Emperor Kwa glanced at the Scarlet Flame Emperor. The Scarlet Flame Emperor did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Qinghao and the other 2, waiting to hear their opinions. "To be honest, we just came out of the Great Yao Mountain in the 100 Lands. We don't know how big the Scarlet Flame Realm is. We took many detours along the way before coming to the Scarlet Flame Realm. We don't have any requests. Regardless of whether it's a big or small matter, as long as we can do something for you, Emperor Kwa, it's a waste for us to be a commander." Qinghao expressed his opinion and appeared to be easygoing. He then added, "As long as you have time to teach us cultivation, Emperor Kwa will be satisfied." The Scarlet Flame Emperor and Emperor Kwa looked at each other and were secretly delighted. It turned out that the 3 of them had just entered the world and were still blank pieces of paper. They had no desire for power. This was the best. "Ahem, I can't talk about teaching, but I can share some of my cultivation experiences. Are you sure you don't have any requests?" The Scarlet Flame Emperor asked seriously. There was only one chance. They would work for him and not ask for anything in return. His eyes seemed to be saying that they should think carefully before answering. Just be a commander. Furthermore, if there are any riots, strange phenomena, strange people, and other miscellaneous things, Emperor Kwa can leave them to us. We're young, after all, so we need to run around more. Yi Shuihan giggled a few times, acting like an obedient child. Chapter 1482. The Red Flame Emperor and the Winged Emperor both looked at Yi Shuihan in surprise. Running errands everywhere, celestial emperors should spend more time pursuing the great path of the celestial emperor than enjoying themselves. Had Qin Hao and the others been cooped up in the Dayo Mountain for too long? They didn't ask for anything in return. Running errands was fine. Killing bandits and robbers wasn't challenging at all. It was boring. In the past, the Workman Emperor and the Winged Emperor didn't bother with such trivial matters. But if Qin Hao was willing to do it, it would indeed reduce the casualties of cultivators in the Crimson Flame world. It would also serve as a great deterrent. The people would sing praises of the Emperor. The Emperor was so kind that he ordered Qin Hao and the other celestial emperors to comfort the people. Are you really willing to do it? Don't you feel bored? The Red Flame Emperor asked with a strange expression. He couldn't wait for Qin Hao to nod. The Workman Emperor and the Winged Emperor had the same thought. Traveling thousands of miles and experiencing the survival of the weak is a way of cultivation. How can it be boring? Qin Hao's smile was clear. Brother Qin is a man of character. Since he has such intentions, let's follow his wishes. Emperor Kwa drank a cup. He could travel freely in the Crimson Flame world. Also, you don't need to manage the Crimson Flame camp personally. We'll arrange for experts to train them. You can go to the camp occasionally to show your face and intimidate the soldiers. Brother Kwa, I agree. Qin Hao smiled and nodded. He toasted Emperor Kwa. All right, we'll do as you say. You could do whatever you want. To make it easier for you to get useful information as soon as possible, Red Flame Emperor shouted. Yes, sir. A cold voice responded outside the palace. From today onward, report to Emperor Qin directly if there's any chaos in the realm. You don't have to report to me. The Red Flame Emperor ordered sternly. Red Flame Division was in charge of intelligence in the Crimson Flame world. They were everywhere. Even if something big happened in the Hundred Lands, the news would be sent to the Red Flame Peak within 5 days. Yes, sir. Red Flame Emperor nodded. Red Flame Emperor and his subordinates have the most up-to-date intelligence force in the Crimson Flame world. I'll leave it to Brother Qin. The Crimson Flame Emperor drank a few cups of wine and looked very relaxed. I won't disappoint the Emperor's trust. Qin Hao cupped his hands and smiled at Yi Shuihan. At this moment, everyone was in high spirits. Everyone drank to their heart's content to celebrate the addition of 3 immortal emperors to the Scarlet Flame Palace. At the banquet, the Work Sovereign poured wine into Little Nine's mouth like crazy. The Winged Sovereign and Yi Shuihan discussed the mysteries of spells, and the Crimson Flame Sovereign and Qin Hao talked about the way of the Sovereign, introducing the entire Crimson Flame domain and the powerful armies under his command. It could be said to be a happy and harmonious atmosphere. For 2 days and 2 nights, in the Crimson Flame Hall, everyone drank to their heart's content and talked about everything. In an extremely short period of time, they became as close as a family. In the end, Little Nine could not compete with the Work Emperor's appetite and vomited until he was dizzy. Only then did the banquet end. In a luxurious palace, Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan carried Little Jiao, dismissed the guards and palace maids, and closed the door. In the future, this would be the residence of the 3 of them. Originally, the Crimson Flame Sovereign wanted to receive them in 3 different palaces with a large number of beauties as companions, but Qin Hao politely refused, saying that it was more suitable for 3 people to live together. TSK. The wine is really strong, like a flame burning my throat. After the door closed, Little Nine immediately woke up. After all, he was pretending to be drunk. If he did not pretend to be drunk, he would probably drink for a few more days, or even more than 10 days. A group of immortal emperors did not have any concept of time. Boss, the Crimson Flame Sovereign is a good person. He actually directly handed over the strongest intelligence network to us. Yi Shuihan lay on a throne made of pure gold. Not only the Crimson Flame Sovereign, but the Work Sovereign and the Wing Sovereign were also good people. Emperor Quan naturally did not need to be mentioned. Originally, he thought that the Work Sovereign and the Wing Sovereign would not be nice to them after they joined the Crimson Flame Palace. After all, during the War of the Four Clans, Qin Hao and the others injured many of the two immortal emperor's descendants. He did not expect that they would treat him like this without any ill feelings. A good person is also something that we fought for with our strength. Qin Hao put the sleeping Gooden on the bed, turned around, and sat down. If Yishu Han and Little Nine had not performed well during the battle with the Work Sovereign and the Wing Sovereign, the Work Sovereign and the Wing Sovereign would not have been so easy to talk to at the banquet. The Crimson Flame Sovereign also would not have directly sent out his strongest intelligence network. All of this was something that they fought for with their strength. Little Nine and Yishu Han nodded. That was the reason. Now we have the most up-to-date information in the Crimson Flame world. As long as a disciple of the Divine Palace makes a slight mistake, we can immediately find out his location. Little Nine's eyes flashed with sharpness. Yu Qinyang better not break into the Crimson Flame world. He still had not avenged the abuse he had suffered. Keep your auras in check. Emperor Zong, Emperor Yi, and Emperor Qua are all of the 4th level of the Emperor realm. They pose no threat, but Emperor Qi Yin is of the 8th level of the Emperor realm. Furthermore, I can sense that his fire attacks are extremely powerful. You are no match for him, Qin Hao said solemnly. The Crimson Flame Sovereign was not to be underestimated. Little Nine and Yishuhin's true cultivation was of the 5th level of the Emperor realm, the same as Qin Hao. If the Crimson Flame Sovereign discovered their cultivation and created a crisis, the gains would not make up for the losses. Yes, the two nodded. The Crimson Flame Sovereign was indeed very strong. From the moment they set foot on the Crimson Flame Peak and felt the overbearing fire spirit chi here, they knew that it was extraordinary. Take this. Be careful not to break the bottle. Qin Hao took out a few bottles of venom and placed them on the table. The two took one each. Yishuan took the bottle and asked curiously, "What is this?" Poison, an extremely strong poison. It may not be a threat to the native creatures of the illusory palace, but if the disciples of the Divine Palace are infected and do not take my antidote in time, they will die without a doubt. Qin Hao warned seriously. He handed it to Yi Shuihan and Little Nine to protect themselves. The illusory palace is different from the outside world. When we enter here, our body will be somewhat limited. The poison contained in plants and animals is the most obvious kind. It can't be completely removed and completely forced out by Yuan Qi. We need an antidote. Qin Hao had deeply experienced how dangerous it was to be poisoned. He had almost lost his life, so there was no room for carelessness. Moreover, the poison contained in the creatures of the illusory palace was different from Tang Jingshue's innate fire-cold disease. Tang Jingshue's fire-cold disease was not a poison. At most, it was an illness caused by the chaotic power of the 7 peaks. The disciples of the Divine Palace had the ability to resolve it, but the poison derived from the creatures of the illusory palace was fatal. Got it. Yi Shuihan and Little Nine hurriedly put away the venom. At a critical moment, this thing could be used as a trump card. We can't stay here for too long. 2 months is the limit. If we can't find the palace flag, we will leave and go to a wider domain. Go rest first. I will call you if there is anything. Qin Hao waved his hand. Yi Shuihan and Little Nine nodded and left. Palace flag. After the two left, Qin Hao looked up at the roof with a headache. Where could it be? At this time, Gooden had already woken up. He was holding a package in his hand and lying on the bed. He blinked his bright eyes and stared at Qin Hao. He didn't know where Qin Hao came from, and he didn't know what the other party wanted to do. Moreover, along the way, Qin Hao talked nonsense to everyone he met. There were immortal emperors cultivating in the Dayo Mountain, and there were 3 immortal emperors? Who would believe that? Others didn't know the details of the Dayo Mountain. The location was too remote. Even if Qi Yin Emperor investigated, he wouldn't be able to find out. Gooden was a native of the Dayo Mountain. He knew that Qin Hao wasn't from his hometown. It could be seen from the 7 steps snake poison. He didn't even know the antidote. But that didn't matter. Gooden's family was all dead, and Qin Hao had always taken care of him. Even if he was a bad person who deceived the world, he wouldn't deceive Gooden. That was enough. Should I give the family heirloom to Big Brother for safekeeping? Gooden muttered in his heart and hugged the package tighter. He'd better observe it for a while longer. The ancestral teachings said that this was a wondrous item that could only be given to the great hero who saved the world. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. After joining the Crimson Flame Palace, Qin Hao and the others officially took over the Crimson Flame Battalion and took care of all the conflicts in the realm. Big issues, such as wars between nations and the destruction of cities. Small issues, such as arresting powerful rogues and bandits. Whenever news of Crimson extinction reached Qin Hao, Yi Shuihan and Little Nine would personally go out and patrol. During this time, they dealt with many problems in the Crimson Flame world. Moreover, Qin Hao had refined the Milky Way bow and smoothly reached the 6th level of the Emperor realm with the power of the Star Ore. This attracted the envy of Yi Shuihan and Little Nine. Unfortunately, they didn't find any trouble with the disciples of the Divine Palace. There were no clues about the palace flag and the strange places where strange phenomena occurred. Most of them were mature treasures or powerful demonic beasts. On this day, as usual, Qin Hao meditated in the palace. His will permeated the entire Crimson Flame Peak and carefully comprehended the power of fire gathered by the Crimson Flame Emperor. The illusory palace was a cultivation trial. It wasn't just about fighting and killing. There were also things to learn from some powerful creatures. The Crimson Flame Emperor's power of fire was very worthy of study by fire cultivators. Rumble. There was an earth-shattering explosion like an erupting volcano. Qin Hao, who was meditating in the palace, was suddenly alarmed. He flew out because the entire Crimson Flame Peak was shaking. This was the absolute core of the Crimson Flame world. What's going on? At this time, the Workman Emperor and the Winged Emperor were also alarmed. They flew above the void sky. The Crimson Flame Emperor's figure appeared out of thin air. His powerful will swept out like a giant net. He was worried about leaving Gooden alone here. Okay, Yi Shuihan nodded. There's no need. The enemy this time is not bandits. Isn't it too rash for you to take the risk with your child? Or do you think that there is someone who can hurt Gooden in the Crimson Flame Peak? The Crimson Flame Emperor looked at Qin Hao with an extremely serious expression. Chapter 1483. Translator, Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo Studio who was the one who wanted to die? Qin Hao frowned slightly. His opponent's words were so sharp. How could he respond? Insisting on taking Gooden away meant that he didn't trust Emperor Red Flame. Brother Qin, I guarantee with my life that Gooden won't lose a single hair while you're gone, Emperor Kwa said solemnly. Yi Shuihan and Little Jiu's faces darkened. They secretly activated their vital qi, ready to fight at any time. Qin Hao cupped his fists at Emperor Kwa and said, "Thank you." The promise of a celestial emperor with his life was enough to show his sincerity. Qin Hao trusted Emperor Kwa's character. Let's go. Qin Hao waved his hand and opened a spatial rift. Then he disappeared into the rift. Yi Shuihan and Little Jiu never questioned any of his decisions. Since their boss was willing to let Emperor Kwa take care of Gooden, it meant that the child would be safe on Red Flame Peak. In the next second, the two of them disappeared into the spatial rift, along with Emperor Kwa. 4 celestial emperors' auras went straight to Tsangzhou at an incredible speed. Brother, is it really okay for us to just watch them die like this? Emperor Kwa let out a desolate sigh after everyone left. Qin Hao's trip this time boded ill rather than well. What else? Emperor Red Flame's eyes were extremely cold. Drag the entire Red Flame realm down with them? I can't afford to gamble. An invisible weight pressed down on his body, making him, the master of the Crimson Flame realm, look helpless. The arrival of celestial emperors from other regions in Tsangzhou was not a sudden event at all. It was a murder that had been planned for a long time. The target was Qin Hao and the others. It was an absolutely overwhelming force. It was so strong that even Emperor Red Flame couldn't do anything. He had to pretend to be crazy and play along with Qin Hao for half a month in order to win the trust of Qin Hao and the others. For the past half a month, the Scarlet Flame Monarch and the others' concern was all for show. Only this could make Qin Hao rush to the Azure Province without any vigilance and fall into the trap. Emperor Kwa, you may be upset, but we've never been threatened by anyone before. On the day of the War of the Four Clans, you rushed to the Scarlet Flame Palace. It's not that you didn't see the other parties line up. There were a total of 10 immortal emperors. They could destroy the Scarlet Flame world in an instant. We had no other choice. Qin Hao and the other two are upright and trustworthy. Both the craftsman sovereign, and I admire them very much. However, that's that. We can't possibly fight to the death with 10 immortal emperors for them, right? The winged sovereign's face was filled with grief and indignation. So what if he was unwilling? So what if he harmed someone behind their back? In exchange for the peace of the people of this world, the winged monarch would not hesitate to die. He could only hope that the group of lunatics would keep their promise and leave after killing Qin Hao. Thinking about the young zither player with fluttering white hair who could control the minds of magical beasts, the winged emperor shuddered. While they are fighting, winged monarch, immediately go to Emperor Tang City and tell the emperor that I will stay behind with Emperor Kwa. If the guy named Changhe Lo does not keep his promise, I will fight him to the death. Flames flowed around the Emperor of Scarlet Flame. He was the emperor of a world, and yet he was threatened by others. It was a humiliation he had never experienced before. Yes, the winged monarch did not hesitate to stay. He knew that time was precious. He tore through space and escaped to the outside world, his aura going to a higher plane. The place he went was guarded by immortal emperors. The Scarlet Flame world was under the protection of Emperor Tang City. Although it was difficult for him to see the Emperor Tang with his status, he could only risk his life to ask for an audience. He hoped that everything would be in time. Brother, let's prepare for war. We haven't fought for many years. Let's go to the Tsang State and join in the fun. The Emperor of Scarlet Flame's eyes were full of fighting spirit. No matter what the end result was, he had to prepare for the worst. Qin Hao, you guys hold on. Emperor Kwa let out a long sigh. He remembered that they had called each other brothers at the banquet. Now, they had become strangers. This was not Emperor Kwa's true intention. Right now, he only hoped that the Emperor Tang City would come quickly. If Qin Hao's ability was really as terrifying as Changhe Lo said, there might be a chance for him to survive. The Tsang State was located in the northwest of the center of the Scarlet Flame world, adjacent to the Yellow State. At this time, Qin Hao and the others were continuously consuming their vital qi. They tore through space and arrived at the Tsang State very quickly. Emperor Qin, Emperor Yi, Emperor Jiao, I will trouble you all. I will hide my aura and support you from behind. They were still some distance away from the place where the immortal emperor's spiritual power had erupted. The Emperor of Works stopped in advance and did not follow Qin Hao. Okay, Qin Hao had no objections. He turned around and glanced at the Emperor of Works. The fierce man's face was pale, and his spiritual power had been greatly exhausted. He had been constantly tearing through space, and the Emperor of Works had been the one to do it. He did not give Qin Hao and the others a chance to consume their vital qi. Everyone, be careful. I still want to drink and chat with you. You must not let anything happen to you. Oh, and Brother Nine, here's some Imperial-level magic treasures that I've forged. Take them with you. These are several bottles of pills for recovery and spiritual power. Take them with you. Also, there is this. The Emperor of Works took out a pile of supplies for a fierce battle. There were so many that it was too much for the eyes to take in. In the end, he reluctantly took out his favorite weapon, the giant hammer that had smashed the shadow of the Xuanwu. He handed it to the three of them. This weapon has been with me for 400 years. It has been infused with my blood, sweat, and tears. It is a mid-level Imperial-level weapon. It will protect you. Brother Works, are you nervous? Qin Hao suddenly smiled. No, it's better to be prepared. We cannot be careless in this battle. Don't worry, I will support you from behind. I will not leave. I have no intention of abandoning you. Oh, my mouth is really bad. Slap. The engineer emperor had said too much and slapped his face. Brother Works, don't worry. We'll be fine. We don't know how to use the things you forged. Time is tight, so we don't have time to learn. You can keep them. Shuian, little nine, let's go. Qin Hao was like a shooting star. A terrifying blood-red, demonic flame surged around him. It was like a bloody line that pierced through the sky. He landed with Yi Shuihan and Little Nine at the place where the spiritual energy was rampaging. Suddenly, the Emperor of Works laughed heartily. Wait until we kill all the enemies of Scarlet Flame. I will drink with you all. Qin Hao's laughter was bold and unrestrained. It rolled in the void like an upright gentleman. The Emperor of Works' heart trembled. He clenched his fists. His square face was filled with guilt and self-blame. I am sorry, everyone. I hope that in the next life, I, Gong Ao Tian, will live and die with the three of you. With that, the Emperor of Works turned around and left Song Prefecture. At this time, Qin Hao and the others were already very close to the location. Thinking back to the Emperor of Works' strange behavior, Little Nine felt it was a little funny. I don't know what's wrong with the Emperor of Works' brain. We're like his daughter getting married. He wants nothing more than to take out all his belongings and give them away. I think it's your brain that's wrong. Yi Shuihan rolled his eyes at Little Nine. Up until now, Little Nine still didn't see anything wrong. His intelligence was worrying. Yi Shuihan, you think you're capable, right? Why don't we practice first? Little Nine's expression suddenly became tense. He only respected Qin Hao and Sister Sheng-Er. He didn't respect the others of the Grand Qi Alliance. Stop arguing. Return to your peak state. Let your vitality circulate and adapt to your body. Qin Hao said, Boss, are you joking? Little Nine was shocked. Returning to peak state was an eruption of full strength. The Emperor of Works was still behind. The Emperor of Works has left. Chapter 1484. At this moment, streams of lava rushed toward Qin Hao. The flames that filled the sky were gradually sucked away. The calamity was eliminated, and the sky was clear again. The blood-red, demonic flames burned fiercely on Qin Hao's body. It was like a furnace of the great Tao, refining Yu Qinyang's Tao of fire. The lava was swallowed up bit by bit. Qin Hao's body became more and more dazzling. His vital qi became stronger and stronger. He was as bright as a god. Finally, the lava that terrified the people of the Silver Soaring Kingdom was completely refined. The people below looked on in shock. Their emotions were far beyond the scope of shock. To them, Qin Hao was their savior. By the order of the Imperial Lord, kill the enemy. Qin Hao spat out a cold voice. When it entered the ears of the people of the Silver Soaring Kingdom, it brought them great strength. It was as if their souls had found support. In the next moment, shouts and screams erupted from the ground. The Imperial Lord had finally sent an expert to kill the demon that was causing chaos in the Silver Soaring Kingdom. Although Yu Qinyang had only been here for a little more than an hour, he was invincible. No one could hurt him at all. He had left an indelible trauma in the hearts of the Silver Soaring Kingdom's royal family and the people. The Imperial Lord's grace is vast. We will remember the Imperial Lord's grace. Hundreds of thousands of people knelt on the ground. Even the princes and princesses of the Silver Soaring Kingdom were crying tears of joy. They just didn't know which immortal emperor the young man who had dissolved the lava was. The Emperor of Works? The Emperor of Wings? Or Emperor Qua? The first thing the people of the Silver Soaring Kingdom thought of was the few people who had the best relationship with Qi Yin. Qin Hao, how have you been? The excited scene below didn't affect Yu Qinyang at all. His expression was very calm. If there was a ripple in his heart, it would be when he saw Qin Hao refining his Tao of fire in a very short time. He had created panic to lure Qin Hao here. Of course, he didn't use too much strength. However, he was still an 8th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. 2 years of cultivation in the Divine Palace had allowed his cultivation to skyrocket. He had also regained his dignity and pride as a holy son. He didn't expect that when he met Qin Hao again, Qin Hao would still be able to refine his Tao of fire with such ease. "If these are your last words, you may begin now," Qin Hao said coldly. Since they were enemies, there was no need to talk nonsense. "Kill." The space trembled, and a black figure suddenly shot out from the shattered space, like a pitch-black storm that blasted towards Yuqinyang. A stream of water followed closely behind the black figure. Little Nine and Yi Shuihan immediately attacked. "Hee, you want to kill me? It's not that easy. Catch up to me first if you can." Without entering the great Emperor realm, no matter how strong one's martial will is, there is a limit to their strength. Under the great Emperor realm, the greatest manifestation of strength is the increase in cultivation level. In order to kill you, I risked my life to level up, and I was waiting for this day. Xin Yuan Di took a step forward, and a powerful gravitational field formed around his body. Waves of ripples spread out, and the place where he stood sank little by little. At this moment, Qin Hao clearly felt that the entire mountain range space was crushed by gravity, and his body began to become extremely heavy. Xin Yuan Di was right. Under the great Emperor realm, the best manifestation of strength was the increase in cultivation level. Although the Divine Palace trained disciples and focused on internal cultivation, Tao arts, physical body, soul, and will, all of this was to pave the way for the disciples to enter the great Emperor realm. After all, in the great Emperor realm, the martial will was strong, and the power of the rules could be reflected. But under the great Emperor realm, there was still a clear suppression of cultivation level between the 9-star Emperor realm and the 9-star Emperor realm. Now, Yu Qinyang, Chang Hello, and Xin Yuan Di had all stepped into the 8th level Emperor realm. On the other hand, Yi Shuihan and Xiao Jiu were weaker by 3 levels and only had 5th level cultivation. They were all Essence Soul Realm geniuses, and they both cultivated the Divine Palace's techniques. The other party's talent was not weak. It was already very obvious who had a higher chance of winning this battle. Chapter 1485. In terms of cultivation level, he was 3 levels weaker than his opponent. In terms of numbers, it was 3 against 8. His misdeeds were clear. Qin Hao still had the strength to defeat Chang Hello. Yi Shuihan teamed up with Xiao Jiu and had a chance to defeat Yu Qinyang. But if any of them were to face him alone, they would lose without a doubt. This battle was extremely dangerous. "Why aren't you speaking? Are you guilty?" Chang Hello looked at Qin Hao from afar. At this moment, he was filled with many emotions. Everyone present was a genius of the southern region. In order to get rid of Qin Hao, they had gone to great lengths to secretly unite the strength of 8 people. That day in Golden Light City, I only wanted to take a demonic beast from you, but I was kicked out by Ning Chao Fan and had to sleep on the streets. You made me lose face. At that time, did you consider my feelings? That's not all. In the auction house, with the support of the Ning royal family, you made things difficult for me. As long as I wanted something, you wouldn't let me get it in the end. Qin Hao, do you know how much your actions have affected my future? Thinking of the past, Chang Hello's emotions were quite intense. Of course, Qin Hao knew. Qin Quan's Guqin score was an unparalleled supreme art. Anyone who practiced music had dreamed of it for a long time. And that upper-grade Emperor-level Guqin was also extremely precious. And these were all snatched by Qin Hao and given to Ning Tianqing. Suitable techniques and weapons could only be found by chance. Sometimes, they were more precious than a cultivator's life. If Qin Hao did not have the great Void Cauldron and did not practice the enduring Samsara technique, what would he be like? How could he unleash a terrifying strength that surpassed others? He would probably be the same as the others. At most, his alchemy skills would be better. On the surface, it was a Guqin score and a Guqin. In reality, Qin Hao had destroyed Changhe Lo's life-changing opportunity. How could he not hate him? Everything had a cause and an effect. On the arena, he had lost 3 battles. In front of the seniors of the southern region, he had been humiliated. After all, Changhe Lo was once known as the #1 musical genius. So, was it wrong for me to help the Xianyuan clan attack the Myriad Cultivator Alliance? If it weren't for you, how could I have been abandoned by the sect? How could I have abandoned my dignity and become Xianyuan Wuying's godson? Changhe Lo sneered. His reputation was ruined, and he couldn't even keep his position in the sect. What future did he have? If it wasn't for Xianyuan Wuying's grief over the loss of his son and his adoption of Changhe Lo, perhaps the sovereign of the Spirit Bee sect would have tied him up and sent him to Qin Hao and Feng City to atone for his sins. At that time, how could Changhe Lo survive? He only wanted to stand out and change his birth and fate. If possible, I hope that we can sit together and talk about Taoism together, instead of being mortal enemies. What a shame. A strong gust of wind blew around Chang Heluo, fluttering his robe and snow-white hair. At this moment, powerful forces also began to surge from the other 7 people. Don't talk nonsense. I'm afraid that I will taint my character by befriending someone like you. Qin Hao's eyes glowed with a scarlet halo, and traces of blood-red, demonic flames curled around his body. Subtle changes appeared on his body, and dragon scales appeared on his face. His aura was gradually rising. Kill! Xianyuan Di was the first to roar and rush out. His figure was as fast as a whirlwind, and he went straight for Qin Hao. He waved his palm and struck down, stirring up the power of heaven and earth. A wave of great Tao power enveloped the area, and an unparalleled force of gravity crushed the void, pressing down layer by layer. Today, the Xianyuan clan's greatest enemy would fall. Join hands and deal with him. You alone can't shake Qin Hao. Gu Kuei, Zhong Yan's, and the others kill Yi Shuihan and that eyesore. Changhe Lo ordered. He sat down on the ground, his snow-white hair flying in the wind. The Guqin spirit bloomed beneath his palm, and strands of Guqin music rang out. They converged into a terrifying sound wave that slashed through the air, sweeping toward Qin Hao, who was awakening his draconic strength. Yu Qianyang took to the air, the power of Tao fire surging out. The world was filled with the power of endless flames. Golden suns formed from the boundless flames, rumbling like thunder as they bombarded the enemy. 3 8th-level Emperor Realm cultivators with unparalleled soul force attacked one person at the same time. Zhong An's and Gu Kuei weren't slow either. They rushed toward Yi Shuihan and Little Nine. Gu Kuei let out a beast-like roar and instantly absorbed his soul into his body. He had a single horn on his head, and his body was more than 30 meters tall. He turned into a single-horned rhinoceros and charged toward Little Nine. Zhong An's soul force was a sickle. He looked elegant on the outside, but after activating his soul force, he seemed to have changed into a different person. Great death chi lingered around him, as if he was a guard serving the Grim Reaper. He slashed his sickle at Yi Shuihan's head. Behind them, the other 3 Xianyuan clan disciples released their gravity force, soul force, at the same time. They fused with Xianyuan Di's gravity force and completely sealed the entire world. The next scene could be said to be the collapse of heaven and earth. Countless mountains collapsed under the pressure of gravity, and the earth was torn into crisscrossing ravines. Magma gushed out from the ravines. It was a shocking scene. 4 high-level Origin Emperors released soul force of the same attribute. The power was extremely terrifying. Yi Shuihan and Little Nine screamed the moment this power was born. They felt that their internal organs were about to be crushed, and they were squeezed into a bloody pulp. Domain! Qin Hao roared. He raised his palm into the air, and a majestic power exhaled from his palm into the world. It overlapped with the pressure of gravity, and the 2 forces clashed violently. Blood-red ripples spread inch by inch. Countless terrifying, demonic flames burned through the void, burning through the gravity barrier that Xianyuan and the other three had set up together. It was as if a membrane had been pierced, and the air in the sky leaked. The gravity that enveloped the void immediately collapsed. Get back. Qin Hao shifted with the water wind flash and controlled the power of space. He instantly changed positions and appeared in front of Yi Shuaihan and Little Nine. Then, he lifted his foot and kicked at Gu Kuei's rhinoceros horn. There was a shrill scream as the kick broke Gu Kuei's soul horn. Blood splattered everywhere, and Gu Kuei's 30-meter-tall body flew out and smashed into a collapsed mountain. He fought against 4 high-level Emperor Realm cultivators alone and instantly counterattacked, injuring Gu Kuei, who had entered the 6th-level Emperor Realm. This strength was truly terrifyingly powerful. Bang! Along with the sound of the earth collapsing and the mountains cracking, the combined attacks of Yu Qianyang, Xianyuan and Chang Heluo missed. The place where Qin Hao was originally standing had become a bottomless pit. Zhong Ens hastily retreated and pulled his scythe back. He didn't want to meet Qin Hao head-on like Gu Kuei. I'll be in charge of defense. Shuaihan will assist me. Little Nine, you act according to the situation. You must kill him in one blow. Qin Hao transmitted his voice. The three of them couldn't be too far apart from each other. It was impossible for Yi Shuaihan and Little Nine to receive the attacks of the other party. Only Qin Hao could do so. Yi Shuaihan and Little Nine nodded. They understood the severity of the situation and knew what to do. How long can you protect them by yourself? Chang He swept his palms with all his might. With a clang, the great Tao resounded. His Guqin spirit flew out, and the musical notes transformed into 2 stalwart giants with heaven-devouring auras. They punched out with 4 fists and smashed down heavily. This game had been planned for a long time and gathered all the forces they had encountered so far. Chang He couldn't allow failure. Qin Hao had to die. At the same time, Yu Qianyang and Xianyuan attacked at the same time. Several golden suns merged and turned into a flaming giant. The giant stepped forward, and terrifying magma dripped from its body. A pair of giant fists with flames pierced through the sky and struck Qin Hao's head at the same time. Not dodging, then take it head-on. There were 8 Emperor Realm cultivators here. How long could Qin Hao last? Xianyuan sneered and punched into the ground. The terrifying fist force smashed the ground into dust. His soul power seemed to have turned into a demonic acupoint that devoured everything, wildly pulling at Qin Hao and the others. One side attacked from above, and the other side attacked from below. They cooperated well. Let's see how Qin Hao is going to take it. Boss, their attacks are all out. If you exhaust yourself like this, you'll be worn down by us. Shut up, Golden Bell Protection. Qin Hao crossed his arms. His body was suffused with a dense, dark golden radiance. The radiance transformed into an illusory golden bell that fell down like a cover. The 3 of them were firmly wrapped in it, and they were impregnable. How to take it? Just take it like this. However, they had been forced to use this life-saving trump card in the beginning. They had indeed exhausted themselves. Chapter 1486. At this moment, the spirit chi in the area had completely gone berserk. Spirit chi of all attributes weaved together to form a giant net filled with endless destructive power. The wails of gods and ghosts could be heard everywhere. The golden bell's radiance stretched across the sky, vast and sacred. It supported all external attacks and protected the 3 of them. The 2 illusory giants punched down forcefully, causing the air to rumble. Incomparably sharp sound waves cut through everything and scraped against the golden bell, flickering with dazzling sparks. Bang! 1 punch. 2 punches. 4 punches landed at the same time. The golden bell remained unmoved. It was as steady as a mountain despite the overwhelming attacks. A layer of sacred golden radiance gushed out like the power of an ancient god. It was shockingly vast. When the sound waves cut against the golden bell, they shook out an even more violent force. Countless strands of vital chi swept out like golden gossamer threads, blotting out the sky and annihilating Changhe Lo's power of sound. The two giants were swept up by the golden gossamer threads and collapsed with a loud bang, sweeping them into dust particles. Roar! As the lava giant stomped down, the fire spirit chi that filled the sky was mobilized by it. The lava that gushed out from all directions involuntarily flew towards the lava giant and merged into its body. Its body expanded once again, becoming incomparably majestic. It was burning fiercely, like an ancient sun god, insufferably arrogant. "Break!" Yu Qianyang roared. Blue veins popped up on his neck and forehead. His attack had almost used up all the fire spiritual chi in the area. He had borrowed the power of the great path from the momentum of the world. He believed that no one could withstand it, including Qin Hao. However, when the lava giant came into contact with the illusory golden bell, the former's flaming body was completely shattered. Countless streams of fire flew out in all directions. Yu Qianyang spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered half a step back. He looked extremely shocked. He and Changhe Lo, two 8th level Emperor Realm cultivators, couldn't shake the golden bell at all. Xianyuan Di was the same. His fist energy wreaked havoc and turned into a vortex that broke through the ground and rose towards Qin Hao and the others. It didn't even come into contact with the golden bell before it was torn to shreds by the golden radiance emanating from it. 3 Emperor Realm cultivators couldn't break through Qin Hao's defense. One could imagine how complicated their feelings were right now. However, after blocking the first round of attacks, the unbreakable golden bell slowly dissipated in front of everyone's eyes, its power dissipating into nothingness. The golden bell protection was not Qin Hao's power, but the power of the divine artifact. It could only be used once in a long time. In an instant, whether it was Qin Hao, Yi Shuian, Lil Nine, or Yu Qianyang and Xianyuan Di, they all felt a concussion in their brain. Their blood flowed faster, and in their consciousness, countless demonic shadows appeared, covering the sky and the sun. There were too many to count. At the same time, when the tune spread between the heavens and the earth, the spirit chi was disturbed, and there seemed to be the wailing of countless spirits. Gradually, under the influence of the tune, the spirit chi slowly melted away. There was no more spirit source in the world, and all things returned to their original state. It was as strong as the human sovereign turning into a mortal. All things fell into oblivion. Yi Shuian hugged his head with both hands. A large amount of vital chi flew out of his body uncontrollably and dispersed between the heavens and the earth. His spirit seemed to be gnawed, destroyed, and torn apart by countless demons. In front of his eyes, ugly and incomplete faces seemed to appear, holding broken and rusty swords and sabers, and began to cut his body. Little Nine's situation was similar to Yi Shuian's. The power of darkness in his body was forcibly extracted, and all his strength left him, diffusing between the heavens and the earth. Weakness, exhaustion, pain, and all kinds of negative effects swept over him like a tide, swallowing his soul. Meditation mantra. Qin Hao sat on the ground, enduring the invasion of the demons in his mind. He got rid of all distracting thoughts, and the high-grade emperor technique of Yaoguang peak silently circulated in his body. He began to purify his mind, driving the evil tune out of his mind bit by bit. The ultimate technique of Yaoguang Immortal Lord, slaying the inner demons, tempering the Tao heart, purifying the spirit, and resisting the invasion of all sounds in the world. With the meditation mantra, all sounds returned to silence. Divine light enveloped his body, and Qin Hao gradually walked out of the haze of the tune. No matter how impassioned the tune was, it could not shake his mind. However, the spirit chi between the heavens and the earth had indeed completely disappeared. Even if Qin Hao still had Yuan chi in his body, if he continued to fight, he would not be able to maintain it for long. Haha, so what if you have my master's meditation mantra? You are not proficient in the Tao of sound, and cannot save Yi Shui Han and that eyesore. Chang Helou's body was also suffused with the same divine light as Qin Hao's. Clearly, his body was also circulating the ultimate technique of Yaoguang Peak, the meditation mantra. He glanced at the vibrating sound waves in the void and sensed the dissipation of the spirit qi between the heavens and the earth. He said to himself, "You only know that Yaoguang has the meditation mantra, but you do not know that she also has the demonic chaotic divine tune that can kill without leaving a trace."